show being modest. Now it's grams of the wax for my conscience. Brian James in LA, you're on college. I've been jumping on them planes like a hobby. Still moving with the pack like my partners. Just the John on them jets cause you wildin'. But the boat is a party on the island. Moment of silence. So good, get back to the topic. Grew up, it was me and Flocka. Grandma's and Big T, this my mama. I ain't even for the pain when my pots flip. Knew his name, that's it, never bothered. Mom said, you the man, son, you got this. Ever since I found a way to go and pop shit. Hold up, blaze through a whole zip. Took a seat at the table of my first flip. Days in red roof for my first whip. Split the money with the gang, never post pics. Seen a change in the game, had to coach it. Never let them take my wangs in the mold, bitch. Ever made in a month, nigga. Used to serve him at the minute, just the front, nigga. Goddamn. Had to grow up quick, I made my own rules. Had my first child, got it jumping with music. Can't really hang with nobody who losing. I thought by now that you would go and get it, but I could hardly see niggas as distant. Know you get cropped if you not in the picture. And I made that zag and went got a bag. Shots to the Henny and OG prescriptions, put rebel shit on the map. Took a leap from where I started at. Started ballin' now, Chris Paul and Cats. Got them steady calling for the mold, but I'm on a roll, gotta call him back. And that's all fact.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. All carry-on items should now be stowed securely, either in an overhead bin or under the seat in front of you. All aisles, exits, and bulkhead areas should now be clear. All electronic devices should now be turned off and stowed, as they may interfere with the aircraft's navigational and communication systems. Once airborne, we'll let you know when you may use approved electronic devices, but note that some items may not be used at any time during the flight. You'll find a list of approved devices in the in-flight
Hey.
information section.
So we're here together. All right, yay.
We did it.
All right, see you next time.
Ready for takeoff?
I know, we've been trying hard to make this work out for a while now.
Yeah, schedules are crazy. So yeah, I don't know. You wanted to talk about. I kind of wanted to jump into this Tad Stormer thing because I think I don't know. I've been really trying to learn more about resistance history, and it's been something that I'm waiting for this book to come out. But it's been something that's been really, I don't know, informative for me. But yeah, I just think that we're not ready to meet this moment. I don't think people are. It's the moment combined with sort of my wider thoughts and reflections on our society. But yeah, I feel like I don't even think most Americans are in the same room. Like I think this country's a cult. Like I think something even, most people in this space that are like deconverts from high control religious groups. I think that most of those people still have not deconstructed the rest of our lives, like still have not deconstructed patriarchy, capitalism, and white supremacy. I mean, most people that deconvert, I think, are soft liberals at best a lot of times. Like it's very hard. It's like people aren't MAGA or people aren't in the KKK, and all of a sudden I'm not in the KKK, so now I'm a leftist, I'm a liberal, and it's like, no, you're a rookie, and you've got a lot to learn. I mean, we all have a lot to learn, but
Of course.
in this moment, honestly, it's like people. This country's a cult. Like the whole the same way you wake up and you go like, oh, all that God stuff, all that Jesus shit was bullshit, and these motherfuckers lied to me my whole life. Well, number one, they aren't awake. You
Oh,
left
sure.
a cult, and most of the people in your life are still in that cult.
Mhm.
Most of my family are still in a cult, and they have
Right.
no interest in reality. Like, they have
Right.
no interest in reality. And so to me, it's even foolish to it's foolish to try to cooperate with them on serious matters. It's sort of like having a financial crisis in your household, and instead of like reaching for your partner, you decide to ask like the 7-year-old, "Hey, 7-year-old, what do you think we should do about this?" "Well, I think we should just go to the store and invest in ice cream, and it'll all be okay, mom." Like, yeah, that makes perfect sense to a 7-year-old.
Of course.
That's a really good solution, and it will, if you listen to it for a couple nights, you'll just have ice cream and forget you have debt issues. But
Mhm.
that's like where, and so most people are not waking up from the hyper religious cult mentality way of life. But then there's like a larger problem to where even the people that sort of have not yet realized the same thing applies about society. The same thing
Right.
applies about democracy and the Constitution and the United States of America and our place in the world. All of that was just a bunch of cult bullshit and lies
Interesting.
too. So,
I
me, I'm calling for the national deconstruction. Go ahead.
No, I'm with you. I'm definitely with you. I am wondering what it is that you're hoping to get out of your study of the history of resistance, because I think that's really valid that you're looking at that. Like, are you
Oh, that's a good
hoping
question.
to figure out, like, what's been done so we can learn how to do something better? Yeah, like, what are you hoping to get out of it?
I'm actually hoping to inform my own anthropological work about um, the problems in society, and for me, a lot of it is about uh, epistemic privilege. So I'm trying to um, establish an anthropological framework that really starts from religions are not true. It starts from faith systems are a category of social phenomena that do not have any empirical validity to them. And it's the same thing with other forms of inherently untrue phenomena. So, for instance, conspiracy theories, flat Earth, vaccines cause autism, the race realism. There are only two genders. There's only two sexes. Like all of these things that people believe that just have no basis in reality. You can do anything you put your mind to. America is the greatest country in the world. All right. So most of these type of claims, there is pushback. If somebody comes up to you and says to you, um, you know, vaccines cause autism, we're going to be like, no, they don't. And, here's a paper to prove it. You should really get your child vaccinated. Oh, the earth is flat. No, it's not. Let's just go take a look at this picture over here from outer space, right? We laugh at them.
Mhm.
We mock those people.
Yeah.
Now some of the other ones, some of the ones that are more harmless, um, America's the greatest country ever. You can do anything if you put your mind to it. Those are,
Mm.
some of us would consider those like benign mythology, but nevertheless, we at some level, it's socially acceptable to acknowledge that they're not true, that there's really limits to them. Faith systems go into this other thing. They go
Right.
into this other thing of, just wiling out claims, but they get privilege. We don't say like, no, that's not true, and you can't use that
Yeah.
as a legitimate basis for social behavior. You cannot come into a public space and use your wilding out ass faith claims as something to put on the table that the rest of us should take seriously.
Right.
And instead, it's taken socially seriously, it's taken culturally seriously, it's taken psychologically seriously, and it's moved into the political space, and it always has been. And then there's this national delusion for the rest of us, or it's really more of a global phenomenon. But I get hyper focused. I live in America. I get hyper focused on what we're dealing with here. Um, it's this thing where that epistemic privilege is getting us killed. It's like they're like American tax dollars are being used to drop bombs on little girls' schools in Iran. Okay,
Right.
now here's how you deal with power. People want to talk about solutions. This is why I'm not optimistic about solutions.
Okay.
Here's the solution. When somebody comes at you and they take power and they're willing to use that power to do harm, and the source of that legitimacy, the source of the thing that they say gives them the power to hurt other people isn't true,
Yeah.
that's your only you only have one job in the world. Your job is to make sure everybody knows the thing they are claiming gives them power is bullshit. And that's the winning strategy. And you're done. Because again, if your power comes from you saying, Jay, I can treat you all the way fucked up because you're black. And we know that black people are culturally inferior. We know that black people can't be professors. We know black people aren't that smart. We know black people can't read and write, right? As soon as I hit you with well, how do you explain Frederick Douglass? How do you explain these two PhDs over here? You know what I mean? It's like you're done. You're done
Right.
because I just exposed that you're full of shit.
Right.
So what we have with religion is we have this thing where now we're literally, I was going to say we're dropping bombs over Baghdad,
Pretty much.
and the one thing we can't do
Uh-huh.
is tell everybody, hey, like y'all know this is all bullshit, right? Like there's no, and so to me, like so the resistance history for me
Okay.
is one anthropology is a study of everything, and so to me I don't see history as distinct from anthropology. I tell my students that, like, you need to study history because as anthropologists we're studying everything that makes us human, and our history is a huge part of how we got to this moment. So
Sure.
so resistance history for me gives me something to understand, to reach to the other scholars, to reach to the other disciplines, to make it interdisciplinary, to say over here, when it comes to this dealing with this religion thing, especially as a society, we're not doing resistance. We need the resistance, and so I'm trying to get informed so I can bring real lessons of resistance into this, because to me that's it. It's like it's not. There's no other conversation to have. It's like
Yeah.
religion's the problem. It needs to be resisted. We need to be fighting against it. And my thing is to just point out to people that this is going to get us killed, and that we should no longer be privileging these type of beliefs. And
Yeah.
so that's the thing for me. That's the hard part is nobody's gonna like hearing what I have to say, because it starts from religions are not true. That's like a very essential part of the framework.
Well, you and I have talked about that, like, just behind the scenes a little bit, because I know I've had times of being in a place of like, well, yeah, but if people are wanting the same human rights, even if they say this Christian thing, it's like there's definitely a part of me that wants to make space for that, thinking maybe that's a bridge to getting people to let go of it over time. and if we can all focus on the human part together, so like I get that, but then at the same time I've listened to your argument about this and I 100% agree with you, because as long as we allow Christianity, religions to exist as a valid and privileged structure in society, even if there's a short time period where a good portion of us are embracing the more human rights based pieces of it, all that other shit is still in there, and it's just widely available to be used by the next bad person that gets in power. So like, you've fully convinced me, and I will tell you, I have been taking that forth with me into comment sections.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah.
So I 100% am on board with it. It's just I keep, as you're talking about it, like I keep connecting it back to what you said about the Constitution and stuff too, right? Because like, yes, you could say that the Constitution is a cult document for us all, and it keeps us as part of the cult. But I would contend that I feel like, well, I'm holding anything that I consider a belief very loosely, and I'm always very willing to learn and
Sure.
let my understandings change about these things. But it's like, I want to feel like the Constitution and Bill of Rights and things like that has some value, has some ability to be something that we could, as humans, rally around and say, if we all stand by this and uphold its tenets, we could get somewhere. And I would say what we're seeing is the co-opting, bastardization, and corruption of the things that could have been in service of patriarchy, white supremacy, capitalism, etc. So is the Constitution and those things like part of the problem, or could something Constitution-like function if there was a different something happening in the way we relate to each other as humans?
Yeah,
You
I
know what
mean,
I'm
it's a
saying? Like, is it the documents, or is it us, or both?
it's both. And when I say America's a cult, it's the same thing. It's like when you look at a cult, there's the system, there's the dogma, there's the doctrine, and then there's the denomination or the congregation. And it's like the same thing with us. It's like the Constitution and the Republic and the institutions, like that's the dogma, that's the doctrine, and then like we're the congregation. And it's both. It's one, it's like the magical thinking of the people to believe that, all of this is designed to work for their good when it's really not. And it's the document that, in the sense of saying it's culty, it's treating it like it's a magic document. And that's what we do. We treat the Constitution, again, because our society is broken, and it's broken in a very specific way. It's broken as a religious cult. So then the ways in which it's broken reflect the religiosity of what broke it. And so we treat the Constitution like the Bible because our society is one in which we revere the sacred documents. You hear people even talking about the Constitution like it's a sacred document. To me, that's dangerous language. No, it's a mundane document. It's words on a piece of paper, and
Totally fair.
it needs to be the correct words. Now, when people ask me like, can we fix the Constitution or the Constitution's problem? You're talking to a black man. The Constitution's the problem. The Constitution was never written for me. So why do I want to fix a document? It's like saying you could take an AK-47 and turn it into a fire hose and use it to put out fires. It's like I could, or I could just go buy a fire hose. Or you know what I'm saying? And we were like, let's take this thing that was literally meant to kill people like you. Take this thing that enslaved your ancestors. Take this thing that did segregation and Jim Crow and still puts black people in the worst neighborhoods and still makes them overly criminalized and still takes 10 to 20 years off their life expectancy. Now make this work for us, Jay. Don't you want to make this the thing that black people like? No, not really. Not really. Like when I talk to my students, I'm like, I'm trying to radicalize y'all. Burn this thing down. Burn it to the like. I don't tell them like, oh well, you know, maybe we could fix it, and if we just shaved a little bit off here and put a new clear coat over here and polish it. I'm like, no, burn this thing to the ground. What is taking you, right? But so to be serious about it though. Could that document, like, yeah, of course, we have a process that we could go in there and fix it and
Sure.
and make it the thing that, you know, a better constitution that would theoretically work for us. Now the issue is, number one, that's not going to happen because we're in a cult and we're treating it like it's a sacred document. And do sacred documents get changed and revised? And again, ours, we've had a few amendments, but overall, not really, right? Because again, it's sacred, and that means that the framers and the founders knew better than we know. And we have the same thing, the same way we say the patriarchs of the faith. Like, why should I give what Paul has to say about shit? It's 2026. I don't give a fuck what Paul said about a goddamn thing. But it's worse than that. They really want to go back and tell me what the fuck Moses said and what the fuck Abraham said. I don't give a fuck. It's 2026. Like, what does Abraham have to do with this? But we treat society the same way. We got to talk about what Thomas Jefferson thought, what George Washington thought, with Adams thought. And again, it's the same cult mentality. It's 2026, and you want to reach it to the white men from 250 years ago, most of whom were slave owners. And then be like, but isn't this the best? No, like, no, not really. Like, not really. And then part of the reason, I tell my students this too, part of the reason other countries have better social contracts, the reason they have more of a social democracy, the way they have a stronger social net, if they've got universal health care and universal human rights and universal basic income, is because they have more recent constitutions.
Sure. Oh, Jay, thank you so much for the reminder that I needed, for sure, that Constitution wasn't written for anybody other than rich white men. Like,
rich white men.
I as a woman should also be conscious of that at all times, like, for fuck's sake, right? Yeah. So thank you for that very important reminder.
If I have 30 students in front of me, I would say 95 to 99% of the time, none of them would have the right to vote. And it's an incredibly powerful lesson to them. Most of my students are Black, brown, women, young people, right? So even the ones that are white men, are you know, Irish? Too bad. Italian? Too bad. Polish? Too bad. You come from a Jewish family? Too bad.
Do you own land?
Are you personally rich? That's the other thing I ask them. Are you personally rich? Okay, you might be a white man, but do you own land? Oh, you don't own land. You rent an apartment. Sorry, you're no good. So then I remind them, okay, so maybe there's 2 or 3 white men in our class. Maybe 1 or 2 of your fathers could vote. So now there's 30 families represented in this room right now, 1 vote amongst the 30 of us. And it's very eye-opening to them, like, oh shit, this Constitution wasn't built for none of us. No, exactly. So why are we treating it like we need it when it literally was? And so when you see the things playing out, I don't see a broken Constitution and a broken government playing out in a way that needs to be fixed. I see it doing exactly what it's always been meant to do. It was designed to protect the elite and to protect their money. It was always about money. It was always a document that prioritized money and land. The Constitution is about how to protect property, and the people who get to control the society are the people who control the property. So to say that it puts economics above people, to say it puts wealth over health, is one way to put it, but an even deeper way to put it is to say that it's even more so about the land.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Which they stole, which,
yes, which they
yeah.
stole.
Yeah.
We stole. I just did a thing on. We just watched a video on like the Trail of Tears, because to show them, that whole deal. And again, that was totally so. So it's built on stolen land, and then on top of that, we've continued. Why does the Republican have so much power right now? It's because, again, the Constitution and our whole system was designed so that the land votes, not the people. So then when you go to the Midwest and the South and all of these places, there's large tracts of land that very few people own. And so that is why some rural farmer in Oklahoma literally has more of a voice than 1,000 people in the city of New York, because of how much more their vote and their land represents in terms of power, the translation to power, versus 1,000 people in New York who don't own land, don't own property, and live in a big, huge city where their voice gets diluted by just the sheer number of people in that district, right? So, and again, that is why this minority of white evangelical Christians continues to dominate our lives, even as they become a minority. That's how the system was set up. It was designed to make sure they could always be a very, very powerful minority. So again, it's like part of the problem with people is it's like everybody's walking around like, well, what can we do to fix this thing to make it work the way it's supposed to work? And I'm like, it is working the way it's supposed to work. What's the problem?
It's the exact same thing you say about the Bible. It's so clear when you put it in that way, that it is doing the purpose, or it is living out the purpose it was written for.
Yeah, and to me, that's why they're connected. It's like you can't have a country that is indoctrinated into this cult thinking and then not understand when their civics is also just steeped in cult thinking and mythology. That's a huge part of the reason. And here's some other things too, because we do talk about like, oh, the Christians and they're nice and they want to love everybody and create human rights. I would always say the problem is you believe them. I don't. Because again,
believe them about what?
Anything they say. One, I don't believe them about their faith, and two, I don't believe them about how it actually plays out in their civics or in their politics. So number one is like, you could lie. I always, this is a Jay-Z lyric. You could lie to yourself. You can't lie to me. You could lie to yourself all day about what Christianity is. I was a goddamn Christian. So when I tell you Christianity is anti-human, I'm telling you it's fundamentally anti-human to its core. So when somebody comes in the room and says, well, I love my neighbors, I'm a Christian, I'm the best neighbor, I'm here to fight for everybody human right, I'm just talking to either someone who is a liar, who just really doesn't give a fuck about truth, and just because that's a lot of it. To me, that's what it is. It's like all you got to remember, most Christians are evangelical. Like that's what they've been. So they're just doing marketing. They're just doing door to door. Hey, have you heard my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Actually, I think your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is sitting on some bullshit, because you guys are bombing Iran and you're anti-gay and you stole women's rights. And then they get to go, no. Actually, I love women. No, we uplift women. I'm totally fine. I'm totally pro-choice. I love gay people. Like I would never. I don't have any problem with anybody. They're just doing marketing. It's just a sales pitch. And if you believe it, then fine. But like you just fell for a sales pitch. Like that's all. But like most of us know, like when somebody shows up to your house and is like, this is the greatest vacuum that's ever existed, and it's the most, you need this, and you're just like, I don't know, I got a vacuum right here. It seems to suck up things pretty well. But like, so to me, I get that people are really excited about the marketing of liberal Christianity, but that's all it is it's marketing. And then the other thing is again, and I kind of came to this on like I think like the last stream I did, not the last Blender stream, but like the last actual stream, where where basically I just kind of realized that like it's all, if you were so sincere about how good of a person your faith makes you, you would
Mhm.
just be that good of a person.
Yes.
If you wanted to come over here and you wanted to fight for LGBTQ rights and you wanted to fight against the billionaires and you wanted to just be anti-racist, like be all of those things. Why do I have to coax your faith? Why do I have to tell you? Why do I have to validate your Christian identity? And then the fact that, again, like, oh, because I was talking about the whole James Tallarico thing, the fact that they keep saying, if you don't find a candidate that could speak to their faith, if you don't find a candidate that can, welcome them in with open arms to the left, then you can't expect them to show up. Then again, you just revealed exactly what I was saying. It's all bullshit. They don't really care. And the only thing that will get them to show up and vote is not that they're great neighbors. It's not that they're fighting for human rights. It's that, oh, finally somebody on the left spoke to their Jesus, and now they're ready to go. So again, it's like and again, and here's the thing that other people don't want to hear. That's on us. That is our fault and not theirs, because we welcome them in without requiring accountability. We say, I just want you to say what I want to hear so badly. I will ignore everything you do out there so long as you say what I want to hear when you come in here. What we should have said is, I want you in here, but you see that sign on the door? What does that sign say? And then they read the sign. They say that sign says adults only. That's right. That sign says adults only. So the only thing in here that's valid is proof. If you can't show it, you don't know it. The only thing that's valid in here is humanity. So we don't let Muslims come in here and tell us what Allah wants. We don't let Jews come in here and tell us what Yahweh wants. We don't let Christians come in here and tell us what Jesus wants. If you want to come in here, you're welcome to come in here. But everybody has human rights, and really set the bar. Now, what happens when you do that? When you say you're welcome here, but here's the bar, and you got above the bar, they go home.
Yeah.
They go home. Because there's another truth that we don't tell ourselves. Christians don't actually care about making society better. They only care about making society better if making society better makes society more Christian. It's like the apologist who literally says, and there's like, there's examples of them actually saying this, and they're very sincere. But you have to understand, this is the Christian mentality. The Christian mentality is, did you help that old lady across the street? Oh, and now you're feeling good about yourself. Now you're feeling like you're some kind. But see, you walked that old lady across the street, and you didn't testify to her. You didn't share the gospel.
No.
So now she thinks that she got to the other side of the street just because there are good people in the community that wanted to help her across the street safely. And now you feel good about yourself because you think you're being a good neighbor. But in reality, you turned her away from Christ, because now,
Oh God.
being able to understand that Jesus is the only way to love, she now thinks she can just expect neighbors to be neighborly. And you, instead of understanding that you can only feel good about yourself when you are honoring God, you were just worshiping your own ego. You just helped your neighbor. Now you feel good about yourself and God gets no glory. That is the mentality. And again, you cannot
That
preach
blows
this
my
to
mind.
people every fucking Sunday from the time they're 3 years old to the time they're fucking 35, and then expect that all of a sudden at 42, they're just all of a sudden good citizens who care about humanity. This is what I mean. No, Christianity's fundamentally anti-human.
Yeah, I agree.
And so now you can't expect good actual humanity from people who have been raised in an anti-human cult. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm trying to be realistic.
Okay, no, I want to just pause on that if we can, because the way you laid that out, I never once thought of it that way. The kindness without the Jesus pitch attached would be an anti-Christian message to some. Like, that's mind-boggling. But okay, here's why I think you're right, though. I spend some time working at like a food bank distribution type place, and they've got a pretty over the top Christian thing about what they do, right? But you know what they do is they feed people. So I love giving my time there. They keep the Christian stuff at a fairly minimum, but there was one of the staff members there that I got into this really intense conversation with, and what it came down to when I was talking to him was he absolutely could not wrap his head around the fact that goodness, that good behavior toward each other as humans comes from anything other than belief in God. And that was very eye-opening to me, to realize that people are so stuck that goodness and Christianity are a blended idea that they actually can't separate it out. That to think it's like you said, right? The ego that, oh, if you're doing something without claiming God and you're just being good, you must be doing it performatively or for the ego, for the good rewards of the now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of blew my mind that he just couldn't
Yeah.
embrace the idea that that would be a separate thing. That what's
I
in his Bible doesn't tell him to do those things, but the other people around him who understand what makes them happy and makes them sad is what drives those decisions, if we're actually relating to each other as humans.
Yeah, I remember being in college and my best friend who I became like instant best friends with like the first day of college was an atheist. And I struggled with the same thing. And I remember talking to him about it. And I because I could see how good he was. And he would be in situations with me where, I did certain things and I would just be like, I know you're real because you were there with me. And I didn't understand. I just was like, dude, it's little stuff like, you're out, you're partying, girls get drunk, it's 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and the bus has stopped running. So you're like, we walk them across town to walk them home, and it's like, and then you just leave, right? And it'd just be stuff where it was just like, dude, I know why I do that, and I do that because I'm a Christian, and I don't understand why you do it. Like I just could not wrap my head around people being good people for any reason other than my Christian God idea. And now that I look back at it, I realize how depraved that is. And I try to share this with my students. But again, that is another reason. Again, we have to be honest. Christianity is not compatible with democracy. Because if you say that there's no goodness without your God, how can we be neighbors? Like, let's be real. We can't be fucking neighbors if you think that the only way I can be a good human being is because of your God. And here's the fucked up part. Christians already know that shit is not true. They know most of us are good people, and they know we don't believe in their God. But again, they rationalize that as their God's going to work on us, or we're becoming Christians, or we're finding our way to God, or that's God speaking in us and we don't know. Like it, they find a way to wrap it into their story. But again, they don't understand how insulting that is. And then again, like another thing I want to ask Christians is, how long do you think I should care about your rights? How long do you think I should care about your freedom? How long do you think I should care about your safety? When we get real, the thing that the Christians don't get enough of in life is you could hate me now if you want to. As a matter of fact, you could call that hate love all you want to. But what you don't understand is I could hate you just as much. I could hate you right back. And if you want to look me in my face and tell me I'm going to suffer and die in hell because I don't believe in your God and it's my fault, oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll just treat you accordingly and see how you like that.
Oof, that hurts.
But it hurts me. I told my students. It's like I said, if one of y'all could give me evidence or a good argument for God, I'll give you $1,000 right now from Cash App. And then I also said no, because this is a challenge I
Great.
used to talk about on the channel. I used to, at the time it was $100 challenge because I always wanted to make sure it was something substantial, but something I could afford so I could do it right now. Because here's the thing, we've been on both sides of the fence, and they have not. And
Good point.
when you do that, it's like people start to act like you're always straw manning the other side or you're always characterizing them. And so, and again, I realized things are very one-sided. The truth has a very liberal bias. And so, these people lose every conversation, they lose every debate, they lose every argument. So I came up with that to keep myself honest, to say, if there's an argument out there that I'm wrong, or there's evidence that suggests I'm wrong, I want it. And the only way I can make sure that I genuinely want it behaviorally is to say, I'll pay for it. That way I can forget, go on about my business. Somebody could come and say, you said if I ever, and then I just said if I could ever afford to, I'd make it 1,000. And I'm not rich, but at this point, I would be willing to come off $1,000 today if somebody could provide something for me.
Sure.
But they won't. And so, and the thing I tried to say to my students is like, I would appreciate it because I would love to have a relationship with my family. I cannot explain to people how hard it is to watch your grandparents' last years and to watch your mother in retirement and to effectively have a relationship with those people, or such a lack of relationship that they're effectively dead to me, even though they're alive. So
Right.
if somebody's got this magical key to help me see the error of my ways and that I really should have stuck with Jesus all along, yeah, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
should get that over to me ASAP. But the reality is, of course, they can't and they never will. And so it becomes a problem to me where, like, I'm only going to allow this worldview to insult me to my face so many times.
Yeah.
And so it's like I don't go with the gaslighting. I know what Christianity really is. And when Christians are honest with you, they will tell you how anti-human it is. It's really everybody's born a sinner. I'm a sinner too. We're all messed up. We need God's grace and forgiveness and all. Like, again, like at some point, and I say the same thing about science. Listen, science and religion are incompatible, not simply because science exposes the fact that the religion's claims are not true. They're fundamentally different ways of looking at the world. Science is all about uncertainty, even when you have the best evidence in the world. We have the most evidence, and we can't say anything without first measuring our uncertainty.
Sure.
And then everything is provisional, and everything has to be empirically tested, falsifiable, strict scrutiny of peer review, the whole nine. Religion is confidence when in absolute certainty when you have no evidence.
Right.
So the thing that people get hung up on is, well, the Bible says this and science says it's not true. The Bible says the earth is 6 to 10,000 years old, and turns out the earth is 4.5 billion years old. The reality is, the two bigger problems. Number one, the divine expectation. What the fuck is wrong with people that you learn a fairy tale as a child, then you grow up to be an adult, and then you go out into the real world and you expect the real world to conform to your goddamn fairy tale? So the fact of I call it theistic, or some people it's called theistic realism. It's the idea that, like, when we talk about this God stuff, we treat it like, for most people, like for a lot of people, it's just an identity or a thing. Like, no, it's real. Like, they think that shit is real. They think God dictated the past of the planet and the future of the universe and all of that bullshit. So they literally have what I call a divine expectation. They expect the world to actually conform to the book. And when you know anything about reality, you're just like, what kind of sense would it make if I watched a fucking Disney movie and then went and read a history book and thought it was all sorts of fucked up, that the history book didn't suggest that things played out like they did in the goddamn Disney movie? But that is what happens when religious people expect the real world to work like their damn book said.
Right. Can we sorry. I was just wondering if we can like correlate that to the Constitution again. I'm very fascinated by this.
Yeah.
Because,
so where I'm going with this is that the second problem is so that they're incompatible methods, right? It's not just the facts and expecting your fairy tale to play out. It's the methodological, the way you do things over here versus the way you do things over here. And I think that is also the problem in politics, in society. It's that the way you do social order, especially a liberal social order, by that I mean like one in which, everybody has common rights, no group is, privileged over another group, that is as different from how you do religion as science is from how you do religion. And we understand the scientific method is over here, and faith and just saying God did it is over here. What we haven't quite figured out is literally by the same distance, faith and how you do church is over here, how you do a civilized human society is over here. Because again, these people grew up, just even think about this. What do people say when they really talk about the 10 Commandments and the morality and all this? They literally talk about it as a higher law, right? If you think about even why they denigrate science, why they denigrate all these different things, part of their denigration is what? That those things are man-made. Part of their problem is why the reason scientific knowledge is inferior to religious knowledge. Scientific knowledge is man-made. Okay, so what's wrong with the Constitution? What's wrong with the laws of the state of Texas? Those laws are man-made. I'm over here as a Christian. I serve a higher God. I serve a higher authority, a higher law, a higher institution. Then are people that are Christian, are they supposed to put the government first and making sure the government is taking care of human needs and making sure the government is taking people? Or is the church supposed to be the number one institution, and then they're supposed to work through the church to save people? Now, see, here's another myth. There's another bait and switch when we fall for the sales pitch. They come and tell us the sales pitch is service. The sales pitch is, I want to serve food, right? You're like, oh, okay, Christians, I'm with you. Let's serve food. Okay, I want to give kids school supplies. Damn, I love education too. Let's send these kids backpacks full of school supplies. So now you thinking y'all want to feed people. Y'all want to educate the children. No, they want to save their souls. They're in this for a religious revival. They're just using the soup kitchen as a foot in the door for the evangelism. They're just using the backpacks to get, clout and PR in the community, so then we can indoctrinate your children. So, and life is complicated. So for instance, like, I don't have a problem with people saying, I like the fact that the church, serves the homeless people around here, people who are struggling, and, nobody else is doing it, and I'm not going to start a soup kitchen out of my own home. So, I volunteer my time to help out. Like, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But we also need to be having the especially amongst us adults in the room, we need to be having a real conversation about how that is not the solution, right? And that's,
sure. I think that's fair.
Yeah, and then I think even there, that is a huge disagreement. I think fundamentally, part of the grand religious insecurity in this country, and that's another thing too that we're not honest about. Religious people are, you know, it's a terrible way to have to live, because there's so much insecurity, and you're there's so much cognitive dissonance that you're always dealing with. But
Sure.
the reality is, they don't want to live in the type of society that we want to live in, because the type of society we want to live in is the type of society where people don't need churches anymore. With the correlations historically, socially, geographically, they are so obvious. When people are good to go, they don't turn to God at nearly the same rate. And when they do, it's not in the same way. They may be like, oh, we're blessed, whatever, cool, holidays, whatever, but they're fine. So they're not serious about it. So the churches know this, and and so you have to understand, the world that the church wants to create is by definition one in which the government doesn't work, because that is what keeps people dependent on the church. When we create the type of government that we want, again, it's totally incompatible, because people are just not going to need churches like that. They're not going to need churches for community. They're not going to need churches for hope, meaning, and purpose. They're not going to need faith healing. They're not going to need the church to help them find jobs. They're not going to need the church a letter from their pastor to get in college. Like none of what makes people's lives interdependent on religious institutions would be the type of world I actually want to live in a healthy, functioning democracy. So again, for me, it is very clear what they want and what I want are not compatible. So I don't want them even in the room. I don't want them in the room, because by them being in the room, they're taking up space. And matter of fact, there's so many of them, they take up most of the space, and then they drown the rest of us out.
Yep.
I would rather start from the core of people who, that's another thing that I resist. The thing that bothers me the most about all of it is the coercion and the threats. And the coercion and the threats is
of Christianity
and their sympathizers. Like thinking about like the Tallarico video I was watching, where I was trying to talk about liberal Christian nationalism, and this guy's basically like, oh, you can't call James Tallarico a Christian nationalist because he's not conservative and whatever. And it's like the problem is, the threat is, you need these people. And so if you don't have your Tallaricos, again, if you don't have your candidates that can speak to their faith, then you cannot mobilize them. And if you can't mobilize them, you can't win elections. And if you can't win the election, then you can't keep away the bad guys. So if you want to keep away the hardcore Christian nationalists, the right wingers that want to kill you, you better get down with the left-wing Christian nationalists, because again, and nobody wants to talk about it, but the real message is, because the white liberals are here to save you. I mean, it's 2026.
I think you're right about that.
I want to talk about the white saviorism. I'm just saying. And so my thing is, actually, the biggest part of that is, again, I don't believe you. Fundamentally, we're having two different conversations. Number one, again, we don't want the same things. So for you to tell me I need them to achieve my goals shows me you did not hear a goddamn thing I said about what my actual goals are. Because we don't have the same goals. So if we're not working towards the same thing, how can I need you to get to where I'm going when you are not even trying to get to where I'm trying to go? And number two, I don't need them. What I need is the people who already think like me, who already agree with me, to stop wasting so much goddamn time trying to convince them, which what I want to say to my folks is, I get it. The only reason you're doing that is because we have been coerced. That's what I'm saying. They have lied to us. They have threatened us. They have told us we need these people and we can't do anything without them. They've literally just told us the math doesn't work, right? They've literally been like, think about how many Christians there are. Think about the division between the right and the left. The left side of the equation is just never going to win anything without all these people. And again, I just don't buy it, because again, we are correct. We have the weight of truth, history, and dignity on our side, and we don't need these fucking cultists. The reality is the opposite. They need us. They have always relied on us. First off, they can't go further into their faith bullshit, because that's just going to get them that the serious Christianity has been monopolized. They will, because see, they're not about that life. The hardcore right wingers, the super Christo-fascists, they're about that life. They're willing to bleed, die, fight. Like
Sure.
When they thought the election was stolen, they built the gallows. They was ready to hang the vice president. Okay, so left wing Christians don't want it with right wing Christians. They already know they're outgunned. Like that's like a loss for them. Okay.
What do they want, though? What do you think they want? I want to know. What do you think the left-wing Christians want?
What they want is they want comfort. They want comfort. They want middle class security. They don't want anything. They want apathy. They literally want to be able to live comfortably and have everybody else take care of the grown folks' business in society. And then that allows them to say, hey, I'm still a Christian, I'm still comfortable, but at the same time, I can enjoy the fruits of a secular society. I don't have to live with the seriousness of a right-wing society in which, oh no, we have to actually live the Christian life. Oh, hell no. They know they don't want that. Right. But they don't want to give up the privilege. They don't want to give up the association. They don't want to give up the benefits and all of that shit. So they want to go. And that's another reason why we're not allies. And again, people keep like trying to tell me I have to want them on my side. It's like, we're not on the same side, because again, they want to return to a status quo. Like, even that's another reason I don't have any faith in this moment, because like I showed this clip of this woman from Minneapolis when, after the second murder. And she was basically talking about how, we had to leave our posh home in Edina to like come down here and do something. And like, she was really upset. And
I know about Edina.
Yeah, and I was like, she doesn't realize she just told on herself, and that's the whole problem in America. Is that, first off, let's talk about how you ended up in Edina. A lot of y'all, it's like a lot of people ended up in the suburbs, especially the posher neighborhoods, because when there was strife and conflict in the cities, we had the flight of whites. And again, what was a lot of that racial conflict about? The way it's always presented is Black people lost their shit. The cities became unsafe. Black people were, they were breaking into the stores. There were the fire hose. Like, there were, you look back in this country, there was race riots. There was like, that's how a lot of our cities got to be they were. So then what happened? White people just left the fucking cities.
Yeah.
Well, why did the race riots happen? They were disproportionately about state violence against Black people, usually state violence, the police violence against Black men.
Sure.
And when the city government, the white controlled city government, would not do a goddamn thing about the state government murdering Black people lost their shit. Well, then instead of standing in solidarity and saying, yeah, it is pretty fucked up when the government murders its citizens, y'all blamed us and we're like, the niggers have lost it, we're leaving. So now you leave, and then for generations, you sit back in the suburbs and watch as Black and brown people continue to get the worst hand in society day after day after day after day, and continue to be the victims of state violence, from the police to immigration policies to the medical system, the educational system, the whole 9 yards.
It's so true, Jay.
And they did nothing, did not give a fuck.
And that would have been at the time that we thought we were the best in our democracy and the best in
Right.
our religious
Right.
world.
It was
Yep.
fine, but it was fine as long as it wasn't happening to people that look like them. Now, what happened this year? All of a sudden, pop up, two people that look like them get capped, and now all of a sudden you're out of your posh home and you're willing to come down and get involved. And here's the thing. And here's the thing. Even in that moment, it is still not the awakening. It is not the awakening of holy shit, this has been fucked up all along. And holy shit, I abandoned my community, or I'm part of the abandonment of my community, and that's what caused this. What that woman was really getting at, and here's what so many people are doing in this moment, and people won't even realize it. This is why I'm not optimistic. What she was really saying is, she wasn't saying, okay, now I realize it was all fucked up, let's burn it down. Oh, now I realize it's fucked up, let's change the system. He was saying, I realize it's all fucked up, let's get ICE out of this city so that I can go back to my suburban life and go back to normal, right? It's not like I'm awake now, this whole thing is fucked up, let's change the whole thing. It's literally got so uncomfortable for me, I had to do something. And even now, I still am not willing to change the system. I just want it to go from, if it's at a 15 right now, if it's at a 15 out of 10, it had to get to a 15. Think about that. For the rest of us, it's been affecting us. When it clicked to 1, we were like, ow, that hurts. It clicked to 2, we were like, ow, that hurts. By 4, we were like, you've literally been killing us for generations. By 7 or 8, it was like, holy shit, this is just an inhumane society that does not care as it watches our people be genocided. It had to get to 15 for you. It had to get to literally ICE murdering white people in the middle of Minneapolis for you to do something. And now what you're doing is not saying, oh, let's destroy the system. You're just going, can we turn this back down to 12? Can we turn this back down to 12? Because when it was down to 12, yeah, things were a little ugly. But again, I was in my posh home chilling, kicking, and things were fine. So I would like for things to just go back down to 12. So then I can go back. So that's why I'm like, I ain't fucking with y'all. Y'all are not serious. Y'all, even now, people are not.
But all right. So there are people though who will have that moment and go, oh, and they will see the connection, see how this pattern is repeated across all of our institutions. And I feel like I see it. I'm always learning new things, obviously, but I see how these things have been happening, are proliferated across all of our institutions. And I'm on fire, ready to do something. And I don't really know how to put my energy in a place that's going to do something. So it's like, how do we then take the people, take the people who are in this place of, whoa, this country is, yes, we could say it's descending into fascism right now, but really, if we're being honest, it's always been fascistic for people of color.
Yeah.
And if we can embrace that and recognize that it's time to make a new system, I mean, we're talking full revolution here, and it is what we need. Because I've always been more of a like full revolution over incremental change kind of person in my heart, but without knowing what to do. So like I want to either like start talking about what a world with diminishing capitalism, diminishing religion looks like or something. You know what I'm saying? Because like I think it's so easy to see the shit and feel like it's completely impossible to overcome. But I think that the piece that has more power than the fear and the outrage for anyone would be the hope that we can actually build a better world together. And I know that sounds all like, la, 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 but like humans are actively building a better world together. Like, yes, the shit is still very real and very bad, but like there are things that we have demonstrated with our scientific knowledge and our ways of changing things that have made it better in certain ways. And so like it's a proven thing that we can do. And so I want to like hone in or build something somehow, some sort of like hopeful conversation at the very least of what that means to explore how humans start to relate to each other when we fully see the harms of 400 years of enslavement, racism, and what that has done to us, how it has impacted our fellow human. Um, like, what could it look like to sit together and talk about the real work of repair of the things we have done to each other? You know, it's like, I don't think we can get everyone to go, yep, you're right, it's not real, now what? And then all together, you know, it's like it all has to happen at once, because we're not going to get everybody to turn away from it all at once. But for those who do see it already and can start to have influence on what we do in the world that looks different.
So I think
Ah,
one of the things that's where resistance comes in.
yes.
That's when you say, okay, now we have to get real about how to fight.
Yeah.
But the problem is that um, it's ugly, it's uncomfortable, it's not going to, and so the problem is not that people are incapable of seeing it. The problem is we have been conditioned to be unwilling to do what it takes. And so it's
Yeah.
not, it's never been a concern of, I don't think anybody can see it. I mean, that's part of the problem. Certainly not enough people can see it. But there's many of us who can see it. But the question is there, structurally sufficient avenues to enough leverage to do things? And my thing, especially from my particular academic perspective, is to actually caution people about optimism. I remember when I was growing. Well, I think it's important. So I was growing up. My mom was interested in, I think, helping me, trying to professionalize me, and I think we do over professionalize children. But I ended up reading, a lot of business type books as a young person. And I remember one of the books I read talking about how in a corporate environment, you don't want to be a person who brings up problems without solutions, because
Mhm.
of the way it impacts the social dynamic, and the way that would be detrimental to your career, because of people's negative perceptions of you.
Huh.
But I think that's part of deconstructing from the cult. Is part of what I see is that the privileged people in our society, who are the privileged people in the world, part of the mythology of this country is that people demand optimism. I always say, like, there's part of white privilege is your ability to demand hope, optimism, and to be put to bed with a warm glass of milk and a comforting bedtime story. When I think about my country using our tax dollars to drop bombs on girls' schools, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve, as an American, I don't deserve a comforting story right now.
Yeah.
I don't. We don't. No, we need to sit with the reality. And I know that there's that people, but we got, no. First off, we have to understand consequences and accountability. Like, part of so I've been talking to my students a lot about people who leave MAGA, because it was really funny. They get very frustrated about people who stay with MAGA, right? So I've had students complaining, like, how could people follow him blindly after all this? I don't understand it, right? So then they have a conversation. They're great. I love us. They're so good. But so they're upset about that, and that makes sense, right? Yeah, of course, right? The
Sure.
bad. So then I was able to show them stuff of people who leave MAGA, and now they're like, they're leaving MAGA and they're deconstructing with all this, and now they're complaining about how, everybody's mad at them, and people are like, oh, I'll never forgive you, and all this other stuff. And so I showed them those videos, and they felt the same way. Like, and so it's good. It was good for them to see, like, oh yeah, I want people to leave MAGA, but when they leave, that's not good enough, because there's so much damage that has been done.
Right.
And the person has to be
Mhm.
honest about the fact that you were part of the damage. And then before we can move into the forgiveness part, people want to talk about truth and reconciliation, but the first part is truth.
Yeah. Okay.
So I know you want the optimism and the reconciliation, but first we have to have the truth first. So now, not only do I need you to talk about, oh, you voted for Donald Trump 3 times, and now you realize it was a mistake. Well, why, what's leading to this realization today?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like, we need to have that conversation.
But I
Now,
like how you did that, because that was like a curiosity kind of thing. Like, hey, let's talk through it. Let's figure it out. Right. Like that's
yeah.
a more scientific approach to it, of like, how did we get into this place? How did each person, how did a family, like, what are the things within us as humans, our fears, our desires, our lizard brain protective qualities? Like, what are the things that led us to a place where we could accept the unacceptable? It's like, but that's the uncomfortable conversations I think you're talking about, that we all need to have, but we have to be able to actually be like, hey,
Yeah, but
so I know you came out of that, so let's talk, right?
but it goes further, because then it goes to, well, we need to talk about, why did you do that in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to talk about everything you saw for the 10 years, and you kept doing it anyway, and you kept doing it anyway, and you kept doing it anyway, right? So that's because again, like, if you watch the video, those are the things people are not talking about. They're like, hey, I left MAGA, but they're not being honest about. So when people push back, people are saying, well, now it's because it's affecting you. So we need to have the conversation about how actually you didn't really care until it was affecting you. And then we need to talk about, how you overlooked the everything, right? The January 6th, the rapes, the Epstein stuff, the everything. You didn't give a fuck, right? So even my students are able to pick up on this. So number one, they say they don't believe these people. In other words, they don't even think. So a couple things came out of those conversations are really interesting. Number one, my students don't even believe that these people are sincerely sorry. They believe it's just affected them now. It's affecting their reputation. They're getting too much personal pushback and blowback. And now all of a sudden they've finally been, it's gotten so bad that they've just had to no longer associate themselves with MAGA. So now they're just trying to dissociate. The second thing is, a lot of those people are saying, well, I'm learning about empathy. I'm deconstructing. My students are like, that's not empathy. No, what I see, nah. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're feeling bad about something, but it's not yet empathy. Because again, they're like, how could you be coming at it from empathy when you don't have empathy? Look at all the things you overlook that clearly show you don't care about other people. And then even now, a lot of these people, they're not being empathetic. They're not taking any real serious responsibility or accountability for how many people have been hurt and how their behavior has contributed. What they're actually doing is they're clout chasing. What they're actually doing is they're still blaming the left. They're saying, I left MAGA, but I'm not going to vote blue, and I'm not going to do what I need to do to fight for your rights because y'all are being too mean to me. Since y'all are being meanies, I'm not going to vote. And so my students are going, that's not empathy. Empathy would have been you recognizing that you hurt people, and now those hurt people are upset with you, and you still now need to do what's right. You're literally using your hurt feelings as an excuse to not do the right thing. That's not empathetic.
Right.
So it's fascinating to me that students, even my freshmen, can see this. Now, what's more interesting is, and I use this example with them too, is like, we've all hurt people or been a jerk to somebody or been the bad person in a relationship. So it's great to say, oh, I'm a new man. I've learned, baby, I was wrong. But I don't get to call my ex and say, hey, listen, I was, yeah, but you know what? I realized I was fucked up, and I'm not fucked up like that anymore. So round two, right? Like you
Right.
don't get to
No.
do that, right? Part of life is understanding I was fucked up in the past. I have to own that and live with it. And I have to live with it forever.
Mhm.
Forever I have to live with the consequences of what I did that was wrong, right? And
Mhm.
then I have to accept the things that I broke, and I have to move forward and be a part of the solution going forward anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now,
Hmm.
here's where it
Hmm.
comes to the whole thing with the solutions and all of the stuff. We have to accept that a real possibility is that this can't be fixed and
I
that
know.
it's too late.
I know.
And that's the thing that I'm like part of really real accountability is sometimes realizing, yeah, I just dropped the family heirloom lamp that was sitting around, that's been in this family for 500 years. I just dropped it off grandma's counter. It's now shattered into 2,000 pieces on the floor. There's no putting it back together.
Oof. Well, hmm. I don't think you're wrong, but at the same time, I I'm not sure I can convince myself that all hope is lost totally. Like, do I think we're gonna get 8 billion people on the same page? No. Do I think we're gonna get rid of religion in my lifetime? No. Maybe 500 years? Maybe, if I'm being optimistic.
So
But what I do think is that
uh,
right here in this moment, we do have the ability to make connections where we have them, right? And be able to um, build the pieces of what it is we see that would be better right now and
have
start
you
laying those foundations to enable the people who come after us to have something to build on. I
have you
mean, that
seen Don't
includes
Look Up?
tearing down the shit, but yes, go ahead.
Have you seen Don't Look Up, the movie?
I have not yet. I feel
You
like I
should
should.
see it. It's really good.
Okay.
Um, Maybe we should do a movie night. I do it for movie nights with my students. It's really good. Um, so here's the thing. I'm trying to figure out how do I say this without spoiling it. What I would say is this. I'm not trying to tell people to give up. Actually, if anything, I would say I want to do the opposite because again, um, rolling over and playing dead is not resistance, and I don't ever want to be misinterpreted that way. Um, a lot of times, a situation may be dire and it may be too late, but you still have to do everything you can because you're still here, right? It's like when you're dead, you're dead. But as long as you're alive, you're still trying not to die. So it's kind of like global warming, as I understood it, there was a long period of warning where it was like, hey, if we make the drastic changes we need, we could turn this thing around. Hey, okay, now the changes we'd have to make would be a little bit more drastic, but if we make them, we might be able to turn this thing around, right? And, as I understand it, just gets to a point where the changes we would have to make get more and more drastic. And whether or not we could actually turn it around becomes more and more doubtful. And let's assume that scientists came out and just gave us the official, death prognosis. Like it's too late. Like we fucked the planet. It's too late, right? It's just we're just here to tell you we've done the new models, we've done the new calculations. It's just not going to happen. I would say again, one of two things. Again, we're still here. We've got to still. It would still mean we need to make the best of a bad situation, right? How do we
I agree.
how do we delay it? How do we prolong it? Right? We got to do the best we can, or we got to become that much more committed to terraforming a new planet, finding a new system, right? Figuring out a technological what's the technological breakthrough we need, like whatever, right? Like again, just
Right.
because the prognosis is you're probably going to die and it's too late doesn't mean we just roll over and play dead. But it would be a very different conversation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And certainly we'd be, if when we talked about what strategies should be used, what tactics should be used, they should certainly be different strategies and tactics than when we were trying to turn it around and save it, right? And so
Yes.
what I'm saying with that whole thing about, let's consider maybe it's too late. One, again, I'm not trying to tell people to play dead, but one, I want us to deconstruct our privilege. Part of what we keep part of what's getting us killed is our inability to deal with the discomfort.
I
If
agree.
people are saying, I see the problems of the world, I see the issues, I'm ready to do something, how can I be part of the resistance? It's like, well, first thing, we gotta all kind of personally go to resistance prep personal deconstruction camp, right?
Hmm.
And at personal deconstruction camp, they're like, kid, you're telling me you want to get into a street fight, but you're not willing to accept you might get your ass kicked in that fight. No, listen, part of getting into fights is understanding you might not win every fight. So I need you to be mentally prepared for, I'm going to be in the gym sparring, but I'm not in the gym sparring to get in good shape. I'm getting in the gym sparring because I need to learn how to try to knock out my opponent because they're going to try to knock me out.
Right.
And if I don't knock them out, I may very well end up with a concussion tonight.
But you're giving that fight analogy to describe resistance. Yes, to be
Yes, to
very
say
clear.
that, like,
Okay.
so first off, it's like I need people to sit with, it's not wrong to solve problems and it's not wrong to want solutions, but we need to deconstruct the privilege that demands that as part of our participation, right?
That is the
Because
work of
look,
resistance then, yes? To
what?
deconstruct our privilege
Yes,
is
yes,
the
yes,
resistance. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Right, because part of what, again, trying to sit with like the reality is, it's like, why should Americans be like patted on the head and told everything's going to be okay while the rest of the world is like, my child's
Oh
school was
God.
bombed today? There's no, right, there's no when the bomb drops on the schools, that we can't undo that, we can't
I
fix
know.
that. So it's like, so part of the deconstruction is to say that, like, putting myself on a par with the reality of the situation is to sit with this, right? It's to sit with it and say, my country is at war as an American citizen in a way that I don't want to be, and I don't have anything to do with. The same way families in Iran are minding their damn business. They're sitting there chilling, trying to do work and school and not die like the rest of us, right? And now, let's say they've lost somebody, or there's the destruction going on, right? And now, and we wiped out the heads of their government, so now their whole society is upside down in turmoil, right? And then sometimes, like, we still want to demand comforting narratives, right? And it's like, I'm not trying to say I don't want to find solutions, but I'm first trying to say part of this learning has to be learning how to sit with the reality of the pain and destruction and the scale, because that's how you get serious about what the problem is. And so one of the things that I've really benefited from as a scholar is literally telling people solutions are not my job. My job is to identify the problem and get people to take the problem as seriously as it demands to be taken.
Yeah.
Now, do I want solutions and all of that, right? But it's like the first step is, because again, you treat cancer differently than you treat a headache.
Hmm.
And so sometimes when we are demanding comfort, what happens is we're effectively demanding, I don't want to deal with anything more serious than a headache. And when that happens, you don't want to reach for anything more serious than the Tylenol. Now, let me translate that to what we're dealing with right now. When people really want comfort and they really want solutions, they want solutions they believe, and they want accessible solutions now. So that's how people end up buying into electoral politics. People
Hmm.
want a solution. They're looking for people who will offer the solution. Who's willing to offer a solution? The Democratic Party is willing to offer a solution. What's the Democratic Party solution? Just show up in November for the midterms and vote Democrat.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
So if I'm really looking for just please, just make it stop. Please, just make it stop. Please make it stop. What do I do? And you tell me, oh, November vote blue. Okay, cool. Well, what is it now? Oh, it's March 20th. Okay, so I'm just gonna. Okay, so now my plan is to sit back for 6 months, 7 months, whatever it's gonna be, right? And I'll see you in November, and then I'm gonna vote in November, and then what do I expect to happen after November? After November, I should get to go back to my status quo. Again, we're
Right.
gonna turn this from 15 to 12, and I can go back to my posh home in a diner. Okay.
Ugh,
So
so
that's
true.
so that's why I'm like, no, we're not gonna talk about solutions yet. I need you to sit with this problem a little bit longer, because sitting with the having to imagine what would you want to do if somebody just dropped a bomb on an all-girl school that your child went to.
Hmm.
And would you
Holy
think
fuck.
that them just voting for, the next Islamic theocratic supreme leader, would that feel like that was an adequate solution to you? Oh, hell to the no. Yeah, well, that's probably how they feel about us voting blue in November.
Right. Right.
You know what
You
I'm
know, though,
saying? So it
it's
changes just to understand the stakes a little better.
I agree with you. I definitely do. But then it's like maybe it's two separate conversations, right? Because at the same time, there has to be steps that we're taking in our local communities and things to do stuff better, right? And you know what I'm saying? Just in general, like that also needs to be happening at the same time, these broader conversations about um, the shit we need to face needs to be happening. You know what I'm saying? Like we have to do the day to day of how can we feed people better? How, like, right? Like it can't be a one and then the other.
I think yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's a lot of, I feel the urgency there. But I think it's like a learning, because I think we need new steps. Like
I
the
agree.
the, the problem I have with people is like, you can only use the tools you've learned how to use.
Mhm.
And so it goes back to that saying, the master's house will never be dismantled with the master's tools. Unfortunately, for most of us, we've only learned how to use the master's tools. And so no matter how urgent we get, no matter how hard we work or how much we want to solve the problem, if we're only going to use the tools that are given to us, it really doesn't matter. Sure, we'll make ourselves right. This is a thing in life. In
Mhm.
life, we have to always evaluate the difference between feeling productive and getting work done,
Huh.
right? And so, there's a lot of things you can do. For instance, I'm gonna speak to where, where my insecurities lie. For instance, I can watch a tutorial about audio mixing, and then buy a new plugin based on the video I just watched. I'll feel creatively inspired. I'll feel like I have a new tool. I feel like I just learned a new skill. I have not done a goddamn thing to produce my own music, right? I could sit around all day uh, emailing with students, thinking about certain work. But if I got to teach a class tomorrow, bro, it's like you got to prepare for your lecture, right? Like, and so my point is to say, a lot of times in these situations, and that's again part of the power of slowing down is it takes you out of it breaks that feeling productive while you're not getting any work done. Because I think for so many of us, we've only learned, some people say we live in a post-resistance society. Some people say that the way we were all programmed and socialized was literally to top down systematically ensure that we would be incapable of resistance.
I
Um,
100% believe that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Uh-huh.
and so again, these things have consequences. So I more or less think that has worked. With,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
basically as a manifestation of late stage capitalism, like you know,
Agreed.
go, you know, like it's the weekend, like you know, go, like let's just all go to the hop by the mall tomorrow afternoon, and just remember our country's dropping bombs on people in the midst, and let's just sit there and watch people just going about the mall thing. And it's just like this is what they mean. This is what they mean. They mean that like right now World War III is about to pop off, and we're like, so do you want to stop at Auntie Anne's to get the cinnamon swirl pretzels? Like it's just
Exactly.
like
That's
right.
exactly it.
So
Jay, I think the first time that kind of concept flickered in my head was when I was in college. I think I was 20 years old and Columbine happened.
mm,
And let me tell you, it probably took me 5 years to get over this. I did not understand why people were fine with just sending their kids to school and doing drills, like active shooter drills, instead of everyone in the street to be like, holy shit, maybe we shouldn't just accept that schools are going to get fucking shot up. Was like, oh,
mm-hmm,
they're doing it because
mm-hmm.
that's what they're supposed to do. And I still don't understand it, but the initial horror I kind of got over, but it just didn't make any sense to me how
But
it seems like it was accepted.
I want to sit with that for a minute, because when I was in college, Rosa Eberly, God, I can't remember. I believe I pulled her name out of a hat like that. It's one of my professors. I think that was a civics class or an English class, and she was awesome. But school shootings were her scholastic specialty, covering like
Oof.
journalism related to school shootings, because she was at the tower shooting in Texas, like one of the like the OG, like the pre Columbine. But what I want to share with is the shock and horror you felt of that, right? Recognizing the inadequacy of the response, or like the futility of like, oh, so I guess we're just going to do drills now, right? But
Yep.
recognize that also that's what everybody like, we got to do something, right? So that's, and people just did it, right? But now let's have now some retrospective on that, because we can have a lot of retrospective on that. Think about where we're at today. So we sat with the horror then, and if we were all to talk about it then, we would have said, well, we're going to do something. What are we going to do? Right. But what is the reality that played out? The reality
I
that played out is we actually just got so used to it. The
No, Jay,
reality became it doesn't, it's not even news anymore.
it's worse. We made it a fucking industry. We sell bulletproof blankets, we sell devices,
Yes.
block up a school to keep the kids safe. It's a fucking
Yes.
industry now.
Yeah.
We can't make school shootings go away now. People would lose their jobs and we would make our
Yeah.
GDP go down.
Right. And people need to have the same realization right now. War has always been industry.
Yeah,
We're at
100%.
war because of industry, right?
It's the same beast. Yep.
The billionaires that same Epstein class that bought Trump a $400 million plane and probably has video footage of him doing whatever to young teenage girls, to doing whatever he wanted to do to his daughter, to those
Oh,
victims. Um, it's like that's the reality, right? And to them, that's dropping bombs on, like that's so it's so yeah, so like the same way that like we were having a similar existential crisis when Columbine, because that was just so the reality is that was just the beginning, and it
Yeah.
was about to get so much worse, and it's gotten so much worse that now literally I literally couldn't even tell you the last school shooting because they're not news to me anymore. I'm just
No,
being
they're
honest. That sounds terrible, but they're just not news to me anymore.
no, they're just an event now.
They're literally a thing that happens in this country every day. Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, freak out every day? Like, we just freak out every day. So eventually we stop freaking out and we just
Yes.
recognize we live in a country where school shootings are normal. It's normal in America for somebody to shoot up a school. Like, that's just the reality. So, and that's another part of, so here's the thing for me. I'm in a very privileged place because, um, I just decided to be an academic to save my life. Like, I just decided that like the only thing I could personally do in this moment is to like throw myself headfirst into teaching and scholastic endeavors. Um, but yeah, it's trying to get a lot more serious and a lot sharper. I basically integrate like critical race theory and conflict theory, and to some extent like intersectional like feminist thinking. But yeah, like it's all stuff that's really about structural analysis. And the more I do it, the more you realize that those are the conversations that need to happen.
Right.
It's like people need to get serious about the structural issues that we face. The fact that again, we're talking about things that are features and not bugs. Yeah.
Hmm.
You were going to
But
say
there's
something. Good.
like, it just occurred to me that there's like an emotional place that people seem like when they're in a particular emotional place, they seem to be able to grab onto it. Like I don't know that that's great because when you're in an emotional place, you can be drug around lots of different places. But, it's like when we have those big emotional upheavals, those are the moments when we can make greater change because people are more
Oh,
willing because they
you're
see the
saying,
need.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry, I'm all over with my words,
No, 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 it's all right.
but it's like learning enough about us as humans and each other to see like how can we harness when shit happens and when we're in a rough spot, how can we harness that for change, when things are already mushy and moving,
Yeah.
harness that to shift toward the things that matter, toward more human rights, right? Like if I was going to say what did I want to move the world toward, away from capitalism, patriarchy, white supremacy, like I would want to move it toward human rights, more well-being for all beings, full stop.
Yeah, so for me, this is where I think for me, it's just become more and more important to actually talk about national deconstruction
Sure.
because I want all of those things. To me, the three-headed monster is patriarchy, capitalism, and white supremacy, and
Mhm.
Christianity is the glue that holds them together in our society. Christianity is the
Ooh.
engine that drives them. And it's a problem because it is a thing that this country is just not willing to confront. But I think the hope I do have some optimism rooted like you in the fact that people are pissed and um, there's clearly a lot of motivating energy in the air.
Mhm.
I keep looking at the Tad Stormer guy, and I think,
Oh, yeah, we
and,
don't do that.
no, we can pull it up. It's all good. But like I was, what I was thinking about is, I think he's doing the same thing. Like he's teaching all about resistance history, and I think it's easy to see his content and to think that what he's just being super negative, that he's just telling people they don't understand resistance, they don't get it, and they're not willing to do what it really takes. But I see it as he's recognizing the moment, he's seeing the energy that people have, and he doesn't want it to get captured by the machine. He doesn't want it to get swept up into the capitalism, swept up into the performative, outrage and the performative protesting. He wants to keep people sharply focused on the realities of real resistance. So it comes from no, I do see real energy and a real moment here and people trying to really do something. But, and I think he might agree with this too, because he talks a lot about sort of liberal myth making. We want to avoid the mythology of inevitable progress. Part of what he tries
Thank
to
you for that.
yeah, right, because there's a romance that we have with a progressive arc of history, right?
Mm-hmm.
That things are getting better, and that they're getting, and that we will continue to make them better. But that is not. First off, I always think that that's a very dangerous thing, because how do you evaluate better, from whose perspective, right? Like, again, it's difficult for me to say that the world is in a better place for me now than any other time, right? For instance, I could tell you something like, the modern world has more slavery in it than at any point in human history. So a lot of us like to look at our country and say, well, we no longer have legal slavery and we're no longer doing the transatlantic slave trade. So our society is better than it was then. But again, if there's more people living in slavery now, is it a better society, or society doing a better job of making sure I don't see it?
Oh,
I think it's the latter.
God, that hits me in the gut.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're right.
It's gross. It's gross.
It's gross.
It's gross, but that's what's happening, right? I talked about this in the stream. We talk about biblical times, like, oh, in biblical times they were so barbaric, and it was, well, I'm God and I tell you to take their land, and then they would just go to their land and they would kill all the people, and they were so murderous and barbaric. And I'm like, yeah, but it's 2026, and for them, like, they didn't have all of the information that we have, all the lessons of history. We have all this information, all this technology, all the lessons of history. We can see the barbarism of their time, and then we can see World War I and World War II and Holocaust and genocide and the dispossession of Native Americans and the transatlantic slave trade. But we're still doing genocides. And we're still doing, my God said, I can take your land, and I can rape your women and murder your children and blow up little girls' schools, okay? Right. And so we have the same barbarism in us. But you know what they didn't have? They didn't have drones, AI, nuclear weapons, right? And only one country has ever used a nuclear weapon on another country. That's this country, and we did it twice. So again, is the world a better place?
All right, fine.
When Americans drop the nukes on you tomorrow, and might drop a nuke on Iran and tell them we did so because Jesus Christ ordained Donald Trump to bring about Armageddon. Is that progress?
I really thank you. Honestly, thank you for disabusing me of the idea that we're doing better now. I actually appreciate it. As much as it pisses me off that that's real, I appreciate that you tell me.
I think, you taught me tonight because you hit it with the Columbine example. The Columbine thing is what brought it home for me, because I remember Columbine. Most of us do remember. We remember the shock and abhorrence, and now we can look back and go, damn it, we thought somehow we were going to do better after that. And now we just don't even talk about it, the school getting shot at.
Yep.
that's so crazy to me. And
Mhm.
so we're trying, we don't, that's exactly what we don't want to happen in this moment now.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
We
Yes.
don't we don't want to be 20 years from now. Because remember last Middle East, last time we went over there, it was 20. We don't want to be 20 years from now looking back and going, well, yeah, I mean, they did just say they thought Donald Trump was going to bring about Armageddon, but we thought at the time it was just going to be a few months, right? It's like this could become the new normal if we're not careful. And honestly, my prediction is that it will be
Yeah.
unless we and so that's why I'm trying to slow down, because I'm like, if we rush to solve this, because we only have the master's tools. Me personally, I've needed to get retooled. Like, I needed to learn more about history to
Mhm.
understand more about why the options available to us have been inadequate. um Even with my students, sometimes, like, I tell them, like, you can't go out, right? And I don't say you can't, but I actually, I encourage them to protest. I encourage them to resist, but I remind them that part of their resistance needs to be not letting the moment rob them of their journey, right? Because you lose if you go out there, do something crazy, and you were going to become a nurse, and now you're no longer a nurse. When you become a nurse, when we talk about the inadequacies of the healthcare system, you can do something about that.
Yeah.
And when you're part of the resistance as a nurse, for instance, when you can talk about the trauma that a bomb does to the human body, boom, you're going to have a much more powerful voice than you do as a 21-year-old college student sitting in front of me right now. So I
Absolutely.
know the world is burning outside, and I don't want to tell you not to do anything about it. But part of what you need to do about it is to have the discipline to not let it knock you off course,
Yeah.
because when you get to where you're going, you're going to be able to make a bigger difference. And so
Yeah.
I use myself as an example. So, like, when I was doing my PhD, like, uh, when the whole George Floyd thing happened, my PhD advisor reached out to me, and actually my mother reached out to me, because there was so many protests happening. And I've been, involved in different protests and events and a lot of political stuff. So
Sure.
they were, like, worried I might do something crazy. And I was just like, and I said to them, the only form of protest I'm interested in right now is finishing my PhD.
I love
And it
that.
was because in that moment, I recognized what was really taken from George Floyd. What
Mhm.
was really taken from him was his ability to manifest his future and live his life to his own dictates. And I don't know, his educational background or what it was, but he was also robbed of seeing anything. Maybe, I think about my uncle, and how my uncle's deceased, but how proud my uncle would be of me, and how proud he was when I got a full academic scholarship to college.
Mhm.
So, George Floyd was robbed to see any of his nephews become, doctors or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was telling my students, like, yeah, I was angry and wanted to take it to the streets, but if I'd have got in trouble, I wouldn't be able to be here in this moment with you,
Yeah.
trying to help y'all get to where y'all are going in this moment. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you got
Yes.
to be able to connect those dots. And so it's
That's
like,
your strategy.
yeah.
That was you having strategy instead of just outrage.
Yes, instead of
Yeah.
just outrage, right? Like channeling it,
Yeah.
like, no, Jay, get to be a Black PhD, knowing that, less than, like, 1% of less than 2% of evolutionary biologists are Black, and then hit them with it.
Yeah.
And and so that's the thing. Now, am I saying everybody needs to go back to grad school? And no, we don't have time for all that. But what I am saying is we should really value deconstruction,
Mhm.
like as an ongoing continual thing. Like myself, like I still have to deconstruct from all these things myself because it's a continual process, right? It's
Totally,
not just
totally.
like it's not a one-time thing. But then part of that has to be the realization that I'm therefore also not adequately tooled. And that's very
Yeah.
frustrating. So like
Mhm.
for instance, like relationships, like part of what I had to realize with like relationships and different things in life was one of the consequences of being raised in a cult is I feel like there's developmental consequences. So just to be brief
Yeah.
about it, like a couple ones would be like instead of learning how to like use your words and like express your feelings, right? You're always told to like take it to God or like make it a faith thing, or like you're going through challenges in life. Like I was using an example of like maybe you had a relationship with a partner and you found out that like they gave you an STD, but then they break up with you because they just blame you, like I don't know, whatever, right? And then you find out like you're pregnant. That's just I was just an example I made up in my head, right? But instead of like learning how to like deal with the challenges, you're literally told, "Well, are you on your knees? Have you been on your knees enough? Have you given it to
Uh,
him? Have you turned it over?" Right? And so literally
oh man,
we
no.
don't we don't learn how to deal with life as adults, right? So then
Yeah.
part of my thing is, right, like when I failed in relationships or I failed in certain situations in life, I've had to recognize, bro, you may be smart when it comes to this or that over here, capable when it comes to this or that over here, but that relationship just failed, or you just failed in that situation because you are lacking major shit in life.
Mm.
So, yes, it's good that now you realize you were part of the problem. Yes, now it's good that you realize that you want to be part of the solution. Yes, now it's great that you want to create a different future. But if you're going to be real about it, you don't know how.
Yeah.
You don't have the tools. And if you go trying to build the future you want with the tools that you currently have, you're only going to be able to build a destructive new home because you've only been given the tools of how to build destructive environments. So literally I had to stop and like, oh, I have to learn. I have to actually acquire new tools, and then I have to learn how to effectively use those new tools in like baby steps. I can't jump into let's spend the rest of our lives together, a romantic relationship, let's start a family. I'm going to use these tools. I have to start with like learning how to like I'll find myself being traumatized over an email I need to send at work over something totally professional just because it has implications for my career or it has implication for my students. And so the way I was taught to be so intrepid about anytime I'm dealing with a hierarchy or somebody in a position of power or a supervisor, right? The trauma, right? And
Yep.
literally, like sometimes I have to like go to Chat GPT and be like, is this okay? Like, right? And all I'm doing
Totally.
is being like, yes, the student was in my class, and this is what happened, and then, right? Because I
Yeah.
was so trauma that like the basic skills of like communicating what happened or what I need is so fucking difficult for me that I have to like learn how to do that before I can think about how that's going to play out in a serious relationship or how that's going to play out if I'm trying to be a community organizer, trying to organize a resistance in the middle of a goddamn fascist regime, right? Like, so
Mhm.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I feel like way more capable of addressing those things now, but it took time. And just because I woke up and realized that I was a problem in the past didn't automatically qualify me to be a part of the solution. And so I do think that there's a way in which a lot of people are like, they have the energy now and they have the motivation to do something, and that's great. We definitely want to capitalize on that and like use it effectively, but we have to also be serious about the reality that like we just might not be ready, and we might be more effective if we slow down a little bit and just be real critical before we go do things, right?
Okay. You pulled me in right at the last second there, but otherwise I had a little more pushback than I'm gonna now. Because okay, one thing that I really appreciate about you, Jay, is that I feel like you have this ability, and this is something I think we all need, is radical acceptance of what is. Right? Because
Yeah.
everything, we talked about the Bible, the Constitution, like all of these are our human ways of being like, I don't want to see what really is. I want it to be this pretty thing that I imagined and put in this book. Right? And so
Yeah,
I think the
yeah.
fact that you can blow those away and just be like, I'm gonna show up exactly where it's at, and I'm not gonna give any sort of bullshit or optimism or or anything like that. Like, but I think that's valuable. But I think I might want to counter it or temper it a little bit with like since you said slow it down and learn a little bit to just give it your best shot for whatever you're going to try to do in the world. I can get on board with that. But what I think
Yeah.
I was feeling as you were talking about that was a little bit of fear that if we make it such a thing that like you need to have all of these educational pieces in place, you have to have deconstructed ABC through
Mm,
XYZ, like I think that can be
yeah.
a place that will stop people from doing anything because we've just told them they can't
Yeah.
possibly be
Yeah.
qualified. And
Yeah.
I'm going to do
Yeah.
this again. I think I did this at you once, but it's a Mr. Rogers thing, the new show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Everyone is big enough to do something. I did that tune wrong, but you get it, right?
Yeah. No, it's great.
Everyone
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
big enough to do something. Yeah. Anyway, I don't have my
Sure.
singing
Yeah.
voice on
Yeah.
tonight, but it's that idea. It's like I don't think anyone is fully qualified for what we actually need to do on the
100%.
planet. So
100%.
I will say, like when I started, as a baby activist, not knowing anything, and I still don't. I will just flat out say I don't at all. I got involved with the local Extinction Rebellion group. They were climate, and because at the time it was mid-pandemic, I was like, well, I need to do something or I'm going to lose my mind. So I was
Sure.
like, let me, like, what would have the biggest impact? I was like, well, we all need the climate, so maybe I'll work on climate. That was my thinking. So I went to this group, and they are the most wonderful people. It's a bunch of like older retired white folks who really are working their asses off in every way they know how to push the city, push the state, contribute to larger coalitions for various climate initiatives. And yet, in hanging out with them for a couple of years, it became clear to me that they don't know either. Not, and that's not a knock against them. It's just that I don't think anyone, it's not like there's a book written that anyone has it all
Yeah.
worked out
Yeah.
of like how we do this.
Yeah.
It's a like
Yeah.
it's all an imperfect system. And so that's where the science piece comes into me, right? Is like, hey, I have these ideas about what might change things because I think
Yeah.
it could work this way because of how people are about this and how our society has functioned. Maybe they could see it this way, so like we can come up with these good ideas, but until we try it, test it, and report back, do data collection of what works and what doesn't for making change, for changing people's perspectives to like actually recognize that we all need human rights.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's like there's so much attached to it. It's like, I wish we could strip it down just to a scientific thing of like, what makes this work better for people? What will entice them or help them decide that they can give their time to that, because it's a lot to ask for anyone's time, to ask for anyone's money, to do something that isn't necessarily going to serve them directly, because that is our conditioning, in a capitalistic society to look to authority of God or a parent to tell us what to do, or government, and that's like all brand new for us to have any thoughts outside of that. And so like, we don't know what we're doing yet. And
Yes.
we've got to like kind of hold each other's hands as we figure it out.
Yeah. No, it's a really important point. So I don't know, the phrase that just came to my mind is radical reconsideration, and I think that that's more the practice I would advocate, which is just and almost in all things in life, and I think it's kind of consistent in many ways with this a scientific mindset, in ways that I'm sure I'll think more about later. But basically the idea that we should always be willing to reconsider our thoughts, our ideas, and certainly our behaviors, and in like a radical way, like, just always like, I might be wrong, or there
Yeah.
might be a better way, or this might
Yeah.
not be effective, or
Yeah.
and so with that, I would say like I'm still a fan. I don't know if fan's the right word. I still think the reality for many people is always going to be baby steps.
Mhm.
I just think radical reconsideration is more about considering what you can do to make sure they're baby steps in the right direction. What I feel like the compulsory comfort solution thing does is it gets people to react instead of strategizing. You're reactionary, right? You're just very, and that's easy because we're emotional, right? And then we want to do something now to make the feeling
Mhm.
go away, right? And so then
Yes.
immediately, and so then that's when the problem comes, because that's when you're going to fall back into a habit and you're going to do what you've always done. Well, I'm going to write an angry letter to my congressman. I'm going to protest this. I'm going to do this, whatever. And it's just like pausing to think and going, well, is that the best use of my time, right? Or
Yeah.
is that, and then that's when the deconstruction piece comes in, because the deconstruction piece allows you to go, well, actually, I kind of think that's an example of trying to dismantle the master's house with the master's tools, because I think plenty of people have written angry letters to congressmen and we're still here, right? Now, that's not to say you may still want to write an angry letter to your congressman. And if one of your neighbors comes around asking you to sign a petition about how angry you are about your congressman, I'd still sign it, right? But now at least you're in a place where you're at least now being able to say, well, what else might I consider doing? Or
Mhm.
what else would I even be willing to maybe support other people in doing? Part of the problem that I have, that I guess I'll try to briefly repeat the sermon, but the thing that Stormer was talking about today was, for instance, violence, how the coercive power regime always wants to talk about violence, because violence scares people out of what's needed to be done a lot of times for
For
effective
sure.
resistance. And
Yeah.
so when violence becomes the boogeyman, it shifts the conversation away from the power structure that makes the resistance necessary to the violent behavior of the resistors, right? And so that's an example where, that's not to say that the average comfort consuming American is all of a sudden going to become a violent revolutionary. But maybe what they will do is be less patronizing about people who advocate for direct action. So if I can get somebody who would normally be patronizing, like, oh, well, you have to do that. If I could get them to like not give everybody that lecture, right? Then we can have a different conversation, right? So I'm not just like telling everybody to just go crazy, right? I'm just saying slow down,
Yeah.
think about what you can still do from whatever combination of your resources, your time, your availability, your know-how, right? But just be willing to consider that maybe doing something different, right? Because a lot of times the things we've always done, apparently doing what we always have done is not going to stop us from being in the situation that we currently find ourselves. And then maybe there's something else I can do or support other people doing, because it is important that people don't get analysis paralysis and be like, well, Jay said I've got to learn about resistance history and go back to school and get a sociology degree. And
Right.
well, no, by the time you did all that, who knows if the rest of us will even still be here.
Right.
Yeah, no, we don't want to send the wrong message there for sure.
Yeah, it's a weird balance, isn't it? But I mean, I guess that's where I end up coming back to a hopeful thought of like, hey guys, if we all thought about this and talked to each other about it and tried some stuff, we could probably shift some things. And even giving just that much hope of like, I don't know. I kind of think humans have done a lot of crazy cool stuff, also a lot of terrible things, but the fact that we've done good things also means maybe we can if we try. And,
Yeah.
like, it's just kind of a, oh, huh, hi, Dale. Thanks.
Oh, nice,
That
nice.
is very
That's
nice of
big.
you. I appreciate
Oh, here,
that.
let me
Thank
put it
you.
up on the
Yeah.
screen there.
Aw.
Uh,
Infidel. Do you want to read it?
yeah. So Infidel sent 49.99. I'm definitely not good at slowing down, but I am self-aware, so I do what I can. Thank you for that
Mhm.
very generous donation. That's awesome.
Indeed.
That's
That is
awesome.
so
Awesome.
kind of you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for being with us tonight and for sending that in.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Very
Yeah.
generous of you. Yeah, so one thing I was going to mention is I think it's important, at least from where I sit right now. So one thing I wanted to mention about what you had said before was that I do try to be very grounded in reality as best I can. I know I have my own mythology that I rely on, I'm sure, just to get by from day to day. But I do think there's a certain, I don't know if beauty is the right word, or grandeur. There optimism. There's a certain, it's not as negative, I would say, as people tend to think. Um, what I would say is it allows you to, I don't know. It's a practice, I guess. I'd say it takes time, but I would say over time you learn to be very accepting of what at least is apparently reality, and that has its own optimism with it. So, for instance,
Hmm.
the realization that, for instance, you left a cult,
Mhm.
and but most people stayed behind. Um, like for me, there's still so much pain in, for instance, losing, my family and friends and sense of community and all of those things.
Yeah.
But there's a certain beauty of being able to say, like, oh, that happened because they're in a cult. And I was raised in a cult and I left the cult and they didn't leave the cult. And like, it doesn't have to be this existential thing. It's just what happens as a result of cults. And it's certainly not my fault that there's cults. It's not their fault that there's cults. They're the victim of a cult, like I'm the victim of a cult. And so there's a certain way that it's actually easier to accept it
Yeah.
because of the reality sort of thing. And it's like, even this moment, it's like it's very difficult to accept that there's all these things, terrible things happening on the world stage, And I
Yeah.
feel like this country is so culty that we just will not do what we need to do in this moment, and we don't seem to have any of the momentum we need to really change things. But again, at
Right?
the same time, I can be I that's the reality. It's like, oh, okay, well, the country is incredibly cultified.
Mhm.
So it's sort of like teaching third graders and expecting them to be able to do calculus. When
Yeah.
you're teaching third graders and you expect them to be able to do calculus, you're miserable, right? But when you accept that they're third graders and you're like, well, let's see if you can do your multiplication tables. Oh, you can. All right, well, we can do
Yay!
multiplication. Let's see what we can do now that we got these multiplication tables down. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
exactly. And that's your radical acceptance of what is showing through. It's
yeah,
such a valuable skill, Jay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Mm.
can meet you where you're at once I accept that that's where you're at. I may not be
Yes.
happy that that's where you're at, but at least I can accept it. That's the reality. Like okay, and but and then also like that's another thing that's helped me realize is we have to stop trying to convince people to um be on our side of things. We have to, the same thing you did with your family, or a lot of us did with our families, which is
Yeah.
I left that cult, but they didn't. And nothing they can say or do can get me to go back. And seemingly nothing I can say or do can get them to leave.
Right.
But at the same time, they're going to keep doing what they feel they got to do, and I'm going to keep doing what I feel I got to do. And I think
Yeah.
we need that scaled up because, and this comes back to the coercion. I think the coercion has been to convince us that we can't do anything without these people. And
Mhm.
then we're always stuck in this abusive relationship with these people because, again, they're never going to leave the cult and they only relate to us as well as we're willing to accept their cultiness and speak
Uh-huh.
their culty language. And so we're
Yep.
stuck with them because they're basically telling us we can't create the world that we want without them. And then that keeps us stuck in like having to convince them to create the non-culty world we want. But they're still in the cult.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my thing is that's why I focus more on like our community and the people who, one, we only can influence the people that are actually willing to listen to us. So why spending all your time talking to people who ain't listening to you? I don't know what you're doing. But then telling us like we're enough, and we're better to stop feeling like we're inadequate. So part of what you learn about resistance, or what I've been learning about resistance is not necessarily about victory the way people think it is.
Mhm.
Right? When you look at the history of black people or slavery or a marginalized religious group or women or anything like that, we don't ever look and say, well, they won. There was never like a
Yeah.
war where black people took over and beat white people and there was victory. No, we survived and advanced. I think of it as like being in a tournament. You survive and advance. You get to the next round. You get to the next round. You get to the next round. So part of learning resistance is that people have always done it, and it doesn't necessarily require convincing the dominant population to adopt your ideology and accept you. So part of what I learned is, no, you have to reclaim your power. And when you
Yeah.
reclaim your power, that starts with saying, I'm enough and I have enough. And
Mm.
even if we all we got, we gonna make it work with us. We're not
Yeah.
gonna go beg them to see our humanity anymore.
Well, so you make me think of, and I agree with you. Yes, it's the humanity piece that that if that's not being well served, then that is our moment to move on, for sure. Shoot, there was something else I was gonna say along with that. Are you frozen?
No, you're good. No, it's good to
Okay.
see you, Purple. I'm just reading some of
Yeah.
the chat here.
Yeah, I lost where I was gonna go with that.
But yeah, so it's I definitely try to have like I definitely think people are waking up. I mean, even people in like MAGA waking up. The funny thing about that to me is I sometimes have more hope in them because the
Hmm.
moderate moderate people are moderate people. Like the what it takes to like fit into the moderate box in life makes you in some sense inherently undangerous to the system.
Yes.
And so MAGA outraged gives me more hope than liberals because liberals have always failed to manifest real opposition. Liberals get mad, but they stay within the confines of the system. So they're writing angry letters to their Congress people, vote blue in the midterms. Yeah, we'd really love to stop Trump, but we don't have control over the three branches of government. So we're just going to go on vacation. I don't know what you want us to do. Right. Like they're just useless. But
okay.
But
Sorry.
MAGA is MAGA, enough MAGA turns, they'll be maybe erecting a gallows outside the White House talking about hang Donald Trump. Like they're certainly more likely to do it than the Democrats.
Well, so I was gonna take it to a place of like cults and extremes.
Look at Hey Jake Hugo. That's the worst. That's so insulting. I'm just look. All I'm saying is like, look. There was somebody. Oh,
I used to
it's a
love
lady.
Dank.
It's a lady who does the Pink Phony Club. Cult College, I think, is the name of that channel.
Oh yeah.
She talks about how like when she goes into like the right wing social media spaces, like she can't tell who's the right wingers and who are like the leftist anymore. And I'm always like, you're so naive. Like it's very easy to tell the difference. You can tell the difference because the people flipping out and angry are the right wingers. The people that are like calmly expressing their fucking disagreements, those are the liberals. Like, because when MAGA, they're like, "What do you think about Trump? Fuck him, you dumb, you motherfucker, I hate you." Like they're so angry, like because betrayal, like that feeling of I was with you, I was your ride or die, I sacrificed my friends and family for you, I sacrificed my reputation for you. Like these people are like, my life is in the toilet for how loyal I was to Donald Trump. So now they're mad as hell. Whereas like for most liberals, it's like, again, it's just been like this for 10 years. So it's just been like, this is just how it is. It's like,
I mean, I really feel like that was part of the whole thing, was to have like the first term be like not so bad. So then we're all just like lulled into complacency so we can get schmucked with this second term that's currently hitting us so bad. Okay, but sorry, you made me think of something along the way there about like the culty mind in general, right? So you're talking about the people who have always grown up in life where they probably were pretty damn close to the centered identities in society. They generally always had enough. They weren't faced with seeing real hardship for themselves or even anywhere close by them, and how it might actually be harder to draw that crowd into a place of being willing to really resist. And I kind of think you're onto something with that, because I was born into a doomsday cult. I was in that cult until I was 17. And then I almost immediately ended up right into the evangelical cult, where I spent 10 years. And even when I got out of that and I was like, oh, I don't think God's a real thing, I don't believe any of this anymore, like there was still so much about like I think it's like it's normal human community and connection that gets sort of uh co-opted into culty environments. And so what I found myself doing was everything I got involved in after that eventually was like, oh my goodness, this is also a cult. Like one example I'll give was a traditional foods group. I was in Minnesota. It was this Minnesota traditional foods group. Like, okay, everyone, you feel free to judge me. It's okay. We were a collective group that was trying to source raw milk, do nose to tail eating of animals, so that nothing was wasted. It's like there was definitely like things in there that I still could be like, I get it, I liked it, and I understood why I was doing it. We would like soak our grains in beans and just do all of these things that supposedly had scientific backing for why we were doing it, in the service of seeking health for ourselves and our children, right? So like I realized, having been in a doomsday cult that controlled my food and had limited things I could eat and had weeks of the year where we couldn't eat certain things or had to clean everything out of our house, like there was something about the extreme of limiting my own food intake or my food choices based on some outside system that made me feel safe. And so I think, and there was more examples of other cult-y environments that I found myself involved in where I could identify these like unspoken, but you clearly understood these are the ways you behave, these are the things that you purchase in order to be part of our group. And so like that makes a ton of sense to me because like whatever you've kind of come up with, it's just easy to stay there and to find what gives you that familiarity. And so we're pretty fragile when we haven't experienced a lot of all over, up and down kind of life. We think, well, we shouldn't have to go outside of our comfort zone. It's always been there. So why would I? Right?
Yeah,
And so we don't have like the people who have that middle ground of like every moment of their life. I don't know what they can draw from to decide that their outrage is worth something that goes outside that middle comfortable place. Where would they
yeah,
get it?
it's tough. Part of it is there's actually sort of almost an ironically inverted relationship between economic success and, I don't know, hardiness. Like there's a way in which nobody's more pathetic than like rich billionaires because they're what you and I would think of as life changing generational wealth. I'd never have to work another day in my life money, to them would be a financial collapse so existential that they might literally commit suicide. Like actually though.
Yeah. No, I believe.
Because like having to just live, which would still be not like a normal person, right? I'm talking like millions and millions of dollars. To them, that's such a step down that like they couldn't even handle the shame, right? So
Yeah.
there's a way in which we think I become successful, I become rich, I'm now in the power position, I'm strong. No, you're actually weak as shit. You're soft as baby shit. Like you need like you need the most pampered treatment or like you can't function, right? And there's a way in which people who are in like that middle like class still like especially like moderate like that's still there, right? Because there's just enough comfort and resources that like the thought of risking that is too much. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I really like my suburban home and my two-car garage and my 401k and my this or my that. So number one, people really genuinely haven't deconstructed from the system. Like they think that means capitalism produces a good life for people like them. So
Right.
they literally don't have the even the awareness or the motivation, right? And then there's the like, if they were to do something and risk having a bad reputation or the company seeing them or something like that, it's like too much. And so that's the thing. I've always felt like comfort is the quiet killer, especially when you and it's tied because it's tied directly to the way in which the middle class in America was a uniquely and distinctly white phenomenon, like even in the sense of like the soldiers coming home from World War II and the GI Bills and that allowing the soldiers to go to college and get loans from banks and high paying jobs, like that created the modern middle class, right?
Hmm.
That coincided, that would not have been possible had the historical concept of whiteness around at the settling and founding of America carried on through. In other words, if Irish, Polish, Jewish, Catholic, white Americans were excluded from those things, we may have had the social upheaval then that would have created the type of world we think we may need to do now. Instead, by
Mm.
folding those people into white identity and making white a much larger umbrella,
Hmm.
that subverted the unique Irish, Polish, whatever backgrounds and created we're now the new white American middle class.
Yep.
So we don't
Wow.
think of that as being rich, but that was privileged and it was strategic and it created this class now that is beholden to the system. The
Yeah.
system, if they may not be millionaires and billionaires, but they have a different level of comfort. They're no like right. They're not stressed paycheck to paycheck. They're not stressed week to week. They've got 401ks. They've got benefits. Their kids are going to inherit something. Their kids are going to college. Right. The whole thing is set up to make you just comfortable enough that
Yes.
you won't bite the hand that feeds you. So it's comfort that's the killer. And then what happens is that also becomes super Christian, right? So now
Yeah.
that's super Christian. So now what happens when that white Christian nation is now doing all these destructive things on the world stage? That same nation is not willing to confront its Christianity and it's not willing to confront the way that our system contributed to this. So that's why we're complacent. And that's where a lot of my frustration comes from, because I'm sitting back going, if it's really going to be about white America waking up and taking down capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy, whew, that's a tough sell. It's a
It
tough sell.
is. And in some ways, it makes me glad then when Pete Hegseth gets up there and says the dumb, you know, Nazi stuff that comes out of his mouth, because like there's a part of me that thinks maybe they'll hear it and be like, oh, I don't like that, and they'll turn against him, but maybe not. Maybe it goes the other way and it makes the people who are fine with midline Christianity think, well, maybe this is fine because it's still Christianity. I don't know. To me, it's
Oh
an
yeah.
instant like turn off and tells me I should run the other way, but I don't know if that's how everyone's going to take that. Probably not.
Well, one, the Pete Hegseths of the world aren't going anywhere. Donald Trump is going away, and then MAGA might get worse. Because again, I think the
Uh,
next iteration is going to be more competent. The next iteration is going to be sharper, more sponsored. The next iteration is going to be more financially backed. Like right now, Donald has always been financially rather desperate. He
yeah.
has a lot of money, but he's very desperate. You know, real powerful business people, they don't really like to deal with his type of temperament. So in the future, it'll be somebody who's much more controllable and much more palatable. And then again, the Democrats are not getting out of the Christianity game. The lesson they're learning is that they need to compete for the Christian vote. So again, like, America is really trying to double down on Christianity. And again, this is part of why, again, we're not ready and why we need national deconstruction, because what is so clearly apparent to me is we're just not willing to tell white people they're wrong. Like, honestly, I hate to say it, like, at some level for me, it's literally like not even that deep. It's really not. It's like, it's time to tell white people their religion is a myth, like everybody else's religion is a myth.
You know what, though? I wonder if there is a difference in, when we say people aren't ready to hear this or no one's listening to this. I wonder if there's an age difference with this, because I think, as adults in our 30s and 40s, the algorithms we're seeing is maybe not showing that at all. But I will tell you, the things I see out of my 14-year-olds, like the memes and the concepts that they're engaging with, and the level of understanding that is like already deconstructed about the government, about religion, about patriarchy, like, it is there. Now, granted, that's not every 14-year-old, of course, I'm sure. But there is a good, solid body of work going on out there where these ideas are understood by at least portions of the younger generation. Now, is that everything? No, but it does give me a little bit of hope to think that maybe, just maybe, if we keep things like Club America and TPUSA, whatever groups, out of high schools and colleges, we might have a shot. But I don't know.
Kyle said the religion is a placeholder for superior complexes.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that gives you any little piece of hope, but I will tell you, every time my kid shows me a meme that I'm like, damn, that is 3 layers deep and you get it all the way, it does give me a little hope.
Yeah, I would say the young people definitely are better. I definitely think it's an age thing. I definitely think they can see through it, and I think they will be far more deconstructed than our generation, and far more than previous generations. Now, what is a little disappointing for me with young people is I think they can see through it, but they've also doubled down on religious tolerance. And I think that is reflective of their focus on being more inclusive. And so I fucks with it. It's like they could see through it, but they're not gonna like antagonize their religious peers. And it's fine. Like, it comes from a place where I think they're moving in the right direction. I just think they're gonna need to sharpen their focus a little bit and be tolerant of personal and private religious belief, but really less tolerant of cults, and like less tolerant of religious influence, because it is coercive and problematic. And I just don't think they're there yet, but I do think they have a real shot to get there. Like, even my students, like, I see them go like right up to the line. I could just definitely tell that it's not there yet, but I'm definitely way more optimistic that they will be. That, like, when they're 25, they're just gonna be like, all right, just no.
Right, I can let go of that now. Yeah. Well, I had another thought that flitted away too fast. Dang it.
But yeah, I definitely think it's generational. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the idea that, like, I was recognizing as I'm talking about my 14-year-old and how maybe the kids have got it right and the kids will do it. It's like that could be my personal version of just wait for the midterms, right? So, like, to me,
yeah.
right? And so that's like my personal call of, like, just because I think maybe the kids are going to have it worked out. And I know that my two are as prepared as I knew how to make them. That does not mean that I get to sit back and not do anything, because there is a lot of years and I have a lot of things that I can do in my
That
journey to
is
resist.
that's part of our indoctrination about the arc of history, is that future generations will make it better, so you don't need to worry too much right now. The young people will naturally be creating a better world. All you need to do is make sure help them become good people. And the language I've really used to speak to that is, I tell people, we deserve the urgency of our lives. We deserve the urgency of our times. We deserve to say, if there's a cure for cancer, I want it now. If there's if there's a society that can be created where people don't suffer under wealth inequality, I deserve to live in that world. See,
Yeah.
we tend to discount the lives of the past, and we tend to place a premium on the lives in the future. In other words, we treat lives in the past like maybe their lives weren't as valuable as ours because they lived in a cold and brutish world, and the world was just harder. And
Do
and
you really think that?
it's like it's like their pain and suffering was still their pain and suffering. Well, it's
Yeah.
like we say stuff like, well, they were a product of their time, or that's just how the world was back. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's someone, it's not like fire didn't burn because it was a different time. But then when we talk about the future, it's sort of like, well, things may not be that great right now, but they've always gotten better. And it's like, why? Like, and it is because if you think about even somebody like like MLK always comes up. um I don't think he'd be happy. I don't think he'd feel like, right. I think people, we like to say that. We like to say, oh, he had a dream and we're progressing ever towards it. He'd be like, nah, it looks like we're kind of moving in the wrong direction, actually.
Eh,
Yeah.
unfortunately true. Well, I mean, I was in my 40s when I think I was given to understand how much more radical MLK was than the whitewashed persona that I got, growing up. And that was a valuable piece of information for me.
This is an interesting comment here. My teenage nephew knows the church is bullshit, but he can't let his mother catch on that he thinks that. So this is another thing we don't ever talk about, which is the coercive influence that keeps people in religion. People aren't in religion because they think it's true. They're in religion because they're literally afraid of what their mothers or their grandmothers would think.
Or losing their inheritance from said
Or
mothers and
losing
grandmothers.
some
Uh-huh.
mothers and
That's
grandmothers.
what I've noticed among friends, and that is tough.
And I've been disinherited, so
You know
that's
it too.
that's that's a reality. But again, like you gotta do it. Like you have to do it. Look, when you if people don't understand, when you're in a narcissistic relationship, the only option is to leave the relationship. People tell you all the time, you have to block narcissists and go no contact. And so people who have been in those relationships will tell you, I'll be poor living in a shoebox before stay in a relationship with a narcissist. So all of these people who can't extract themselves from their toxic religious family, I hope that inheritance is worth it, because there's no amount of inheritance or anything that could make it worthwhile to just be in relationship with like toxic family. Like,
Oof. But then, like in the example Purple mentioned, it's, when you're not yet 18,
oh
when
yeah, the
like
young person, no,
you're
that's totally
stuck
different. Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, that sounds like the young person. They'll be fine. I'm talking about the older
tough.
people. I don't
Yeah.
young people. There's a struggle. It's and even in college, like so many students they're very religious. It's just the identity they show up with. They show up with they essentially show up with an identity that isn't theirs, and then they're trying to craft their identity emerging from a background that wasn't given to them. It's a
Yeah.
very interesting struggle to watch people go through.
Right.
Yeah, because it's sort of like you're free to actualize yourself, but you're constrained by the social circumstances that led to you having that opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whew. Well, Jay, I, for one, am glad that you have an audience of college students every day that you get to say these things to. That makes me so happy that I know that information from your research is going into the minds of young people. That is so important in the world. So thank you for doing that work.
I appreciate that. It's a rewarding job in that regard.
Yeah, I'm sure. Especially when, I bet you've had time seeing the light bulb go on for them. I don't know. If
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
watching me, I'm
There's a
sitting
lot
here
of
and you're
times
saying one-liners and I'm
there's
like,
there's a lot
what?
of
You blew
times
my
that
mind.
light bulb goes on for me. I mean, my students are crazy. I have some students I think could teach my class. Sometimes I worry they could teach it better than me.
Really?
Yeah.
Yay, that's hopeful.
Some of them are so good. Some of them
I
are so
love
good.
that.
All right. Well, look, we got to get together, I guess, and we'll do this again. This was fun.
We should actually watch the video next time, maybe.
Yeah, we'll
was
do that.
It was
Actually,
so
do you want to
nice
watch
to
it?
talk to
It's
you,
like
though.
8 minutes.
Sure. Why
Yeah,
not? Let's do it.
Let's do it. It'll be good. It'll be really
Okay.
good for today's conversation. All right.
Okay. Round it out. Good.
Let me go use the little boy's room.
Okay.
I'm
Commercial
gonna
break?
make you entertain the
Oh,
people. No,
okay.
you should solo Patti break.
Oh dear. Let's see. Hi everybody. Okay. Oh. Hit the button. Let's see. I could kazoo for you all. Jay, I'm sure that's just what you wanted me to do. You wanted me to kazoo on your stream. All right. Maybe I'll do something very patriotic. Would that be the right moment to kazoo a little patriotism for you all right now? Because I don't have words to just talk to you. Yeah, prop Ben. You got it. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I'm gonna look something up. I'm gonna kazoo America the Beautiful for you guys. Okay. And somebody stop me if there's like something about that song that I don't know that would mean I should not kazoo it right now. Okay. Oops. Pardon me. I got pop-ups, guys. Not working good. Jay's never going to leave me in charge again. Okay.
What in the hell? What in the hell is going on?
I knew it. I knew you'd be upset. So you can't leave
my
me alone,
goodness.
Jay. It doesn't go well.
Oh my goodness.
It's a good thing you can pee fast.
Damn. Come back to fucking American propaganda.
It
Say,
took
what
a-
is this?
But listen, it's on the kazoo. Because that's what I like to do with my cults, with my cult songs too, is I kazoo them to demean them.
A kazoo does instantly turn a song into a parody. That
See?
is an effective technique. All right, so this is Tad. I think I put a link in the thing. I guess he's written the book. His book's coming out. It's called The Resistance History of the United States. I have never been so excited about a book in my life. Like I pre-ordered it. I think it comes out in June. But yeah, no, this is great. I think we'll have a good chat about this. All right.
Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, a good old boy by way of Vanderbilt, gave us a lesson in resistance politics the other day. He said, violence undermines the morality that the protesters, the resistance, say their movement is based upon. Dr. King knew that. Gandhi knew that. Mandela knew this. He says all of this with a straight face. But then he kind of leans into the point. Violence is dangerous. You can get hurt. Members of ICE are cops. Cops will leave you alone unless you do illegal stuff. That's the move against resistance, against legitimate resistance, against the people's right to alter or abolish a government that becomes destructive of its ends. It's the move every single time. The point isn't to describe violence. The point is to make violence the subject.
All right. So he touched on something really important, like the people's right to alter or abolish the government. That is just something we do not talk about, right? There's a reason they never talk about, because they don't want us to be taught that when the government is fucking that shit up, we should alter it. And if alter it doesn't work, we should abolish it. But this is also like the very key point. And it reminds me, even if you think about the way like somebody like me or like Uncle Bobby even does counter apologetics, right? The way we're talked about, it's always framed as violence, aggression, intolerance, divisiveness, like we're like, right? And it's like all we ever talk about is like radical honesty at best, right? But by framing it as, oh my God, they're so hostile and they're just angry all the time and they're mad at everybody and they hate everything, right? The conversation shifts away from, let's talk about the lies of Christianity and how it's going to get us all killed. And instead, well, Uncle Bobby curses a lot and Jay makes everything about politics and race and that, right? Because now we shift from the problem to the perception of the people calling out the problem. So that's what he's really talking about, is that shift, that when we start talking about the violence of the protesters, we're no longer talking about the structural oppression that makes the resistance necessary in the first place.
Yes. Okay.
And that shift does political work for the regime, for the abusers of authority, and it works every single time. Hey folks, I'm Tad Sturmer. I'm a public historian and a scholar of American history at the University of Southern Denmark and the author of A Resistance History of the United States. It's an easy move to reduce resistance to one word: violence. Once the conversation turns to violence, the abuse that produced the resistance, that makes defiance necessary, gets disappeared. The regime no longer has to answer for what it's doing. It no longer has to defend the raids, the coercion, the arrests, the murders, the removals, the beatings, the confinement, the threats, or the destruction that made resistance necessary in the first place. All that fades into the background. Now the only question is whether the people resisting have become too unruly, too aggressive, too dangerous. They are angry, radical, out of control.
Oh my God.
That's what abusive authorities always try to reduce resistance to violence. Not because violence explains the resistance, but because the word itself changes the burden of proof.
Hang on a sec. I just want to read these comments. She said, fuck that. The federal court judge said ICE can arrest trans people just for having a gender marker on their license that does not match their original birth certificate. Oh my God. I'm sorry, Perp. They have literally made my simply existing illegal. Yes.
Trans rights are human rights. That is so infuriating to me.
Which
we should all be upset about
that. Yeah, we've absolutely known was their intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Perp. That's terrible news. Terrible fucking news.
Hey, Jay, can you turn the volume up a little bit on the vid?
I don't think I can try in the software here. It is all the way up, but I can try to turn it up from here. All right. But yeah, that's fucking terrible. And yeah, again, I try to teach people there's a simple test. Are they human? If someone is human, they deserve all the human rights. And this is like another thing too, which is like this is another reason I don't want the left leaning into these Christian candidates, because filling the party with Christian candidates is going to have trans rights all the way in the back of the bus, and we can't have that right now.
That's true.
Like, it was already a problem that Kamala didn't talk about it, or that the ones who pretend to be halfway secular don't talk about it. Now they're going to fill the party with Christian candidates. Like it's not going to help. Um, all right, let him go, and we'll pause if we need to, just because he's not that loud. He's definitely not that loud.
Violence is the most useful possible word for authority in moments like this, because it does several things at once. First, it collapses distinctions that matter. It takes intervention, obstruction, defiance, refusal, direct action. It flattens all of them into the most frightening possible outcome. Once that happens, no one has to think very hard anymore. A crowd becomes a mob, obstruction becomes menace, standing in the way becomes aggression. The point of the resistance disappears, and only the possibility of disorder remains. Second, it violates the visible moment of confrontation from the structure of violence that came before it. That's one of the oldest tricks in politics. The violence of the state is treated as normal, procedural, regrettable, even invisible. It's simply law enforcement. It's simply order. It's simply the government doing what governments do. But the moment that resistance interferes with that process, suddenly everyone, including your sympathetic grandmother, can see violence everywhere. It's scary. The coercion built into what Trump and Stephen Miller are doing vanishes. The reaction to it becomes the only thing anyone is allowed to talk about. That was true in the First Republic. Forced labor camps were violence. Slave catchers sent north were violence. The domestic trafficking in enslaved people was violence. The Fugitive Slave Acts were violence. The invasion of Kansas was violence. Preston Brooks was violence. But the enslavers and their defenders did not want the conversation there. They wanted the conversation on rescues, revolts, fugitives, disorder, agitation, and extremism. On Charles Sumner calling out what was going on in Kansas and naming it, or a madman, a terrorist with an Old Testament prophet's beard and a gun. They wanted resistance to appear as the rupture, because that made the regime of the First Republic look like peace. The same trick was used against the Patriot resistance in the 1770s. British occupation, military intimidation, imperial coercion, and the use of troops against civilians all had to be normalized or ignored. Then, when Boston crowds confronted soldiers, when colonials obstructed authority, when resistance became visible, that was called violence. That was called a threat against the state, a threat against order. But the colonial militia, the Patriot militia on Lexington Green on April 19, 1775, did not march out to shoot at anything that morning. They stood in front of British regulars, and then they fired back. But authority always wants the audience looking at the disruption, not at the force that made disruption necessary. Third, and this is the toughest, the language of violence recruits the comfortable to the side of the abusers. And that may be the most important part. Most people don't
Recruits the comfortable to the side of the abuser. That's where the comfort is the killer. That comfort will get you killed every time.
need to be persuaded to agree with an abusive regime. They only need to be made anxious about resistance, to engage their fears. That's much easier.
Right? And then and that's such a good point too, especially think about, I've been talking about the Christian nationalism of the left, right? Again, they don't have to get you to agree with the bad guys. They don't have to get you to agree with their opponents. They just have to get you to be more concerned about the response, right? And so then that's
absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
So that's how you recruit people. I don't need you to become a hardcore right-wing Christo-fascist. Yeah, just sit over there and do Christianity on the left. That'll work just as well.
Most people don't need to be persuaded to agree with an abusive regime. They only need to be made anxious about resistance, to engage their fears. That's much easier. Once violence becomes the subject, the comfortable can stop asking what is being done by the state and start asking whether the resistors are just going too far. They can feel prudent, moral, sanctimonious, and responsible while leaving the underlying abuse untouched to persist, to even grow. They can tell themselves they oppose excess on both sides, when in practice, only one is being asked to stop. That's why this language, that one word, is so useful to power and to those who abuse it. It does not need to convince everyone that the authority is good. It only needs to convince enough people that resistance is frightening.
Oh my God.
Fourth, the word
No.
violence gives authority permission to escalate its own violence. Once resistance has been named as violent, everything done against it starts to look defensive. Crackdowns become restoration. Repression becomes necessity. Fear becomes justification. The state gets to produce the very thing it claimed to be preventing, but that's probably going to happen anyway. That's the deeper fraud in Kennedy's line. When he says violence undermines the morality of the movement, he's pretending that violence arrives when people resist. Of course it doesn't. In those cases, violence is already present in the authority itself. The raids are violent, the seizure is violent, the caging is violent, the armed enforcement of abusive power is violent. There's already a body count. Resistance is entering a field already organized by force. That does not mean that every act done in resistance is wise, moral, or politically effective. That's absurd. But that's not Kennedy's point. His point is to move violence from the authority to the resistance. Because once he does that, then you got talking heads on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News talking about that. And the authority regains the moral high ground. It's not earned. That's why people like him drag out King, Gandhi, and Mandela. Not to understand them, and certainly not to honor what they were resisting. They just use those names as shibboleths, shields for state power. They strip them down to one safe lesson. Be peaceful, behave, do not provoke. And use that lesson against anyone interfering with abuse in the present. It's a way of laundering authority through the moral reputation of people authority would have almost certainly have denounced in their own time and almost certainly killed in at least one case. So the issue is not just that Kennedy is wrong. It's that he's performing an old political operation. He's taken a word that rightfully terrifies people and using it to redirect their attention away from the violence embedded in the regime's abuse of authority, away from the violence that they are already using, away from the reasons resistance exists at all. That's what the word does. Don't fall for it. Substitute fear for violence to understand at work it's doing whenever people deploy it in that way, because it makes abuse disappear. It makes resistance look like the crisis, and it recruits the comfortable through that fear. And then it gives authority moral cover for escalation that they probably don't need an excuse for in the first place. That's why every time power starts talking about violence, the first question is not whether the word sounds serious, whether that's actually going on. The first question is what that word is trying to hide. That's all I've got for today, folks. Be careful.
You were determined to break me today, weren't you, Jay?
No, I saw that was on my feed. That's my guy. That's my guy. He's good though, right? I learned a lot from him. Yeah.
I feel like there is I feel like every other line of that thing needs me to sit with it for like 20 minutes. I mean, like, fuck. There's so much of that I would say, yeah, I understood that. You know, like as soon as you hear about the violent whatever protesters in Minneapolis, I was like, okay, I see what they're doing. But like to hear the fullness of that, especially bringing in the apathetic middle ground kind of people as like support for it was just like, ugh. Man, that is really tough to swallow, Jay. I
But it's
don't
but
like it. It
that's what I
makes
mean.
me
That's what
mad.
we need to hear, right?
I know.
That's what gives us the opportunity to like slow down and then be like, oh, okay, like if we keep chastising each other in this way, right? Like we're not helping. So now we can take that first baby step in a different direction, which again isn't telling everybody to go out there with pitchforks and torches, but it's rather to say, hey, when you see people doing direct action and then the government tries to give you or the media gives you the boogeyman narrative, don't take the bait.
Right. Here's where I think something that comes into play that's really valuable for many reasons is tactical frivolity. So I think Park Rose Permaculture talks about this a little bit, but the idea of doing things that are disruptive, that are not peaceful, but they are also not violent, right? And so an example of that I saw a few weeks ago was outside of the ICE facility in Minneapolis. There was an entire group that for some reason decided what they would do to disrupt was to buy 500 brand new dildos and throw them at the trucks as they went by and bounce them all over. And they could be debated, and I would love to debate the pros and cons of such a thing. But what it does is it deprives the administration of pointing them out as violent. And so to that guy's point, that's maybe a plus, right? Also,
Yeah,
there's
so I think
probably a
she
lot that
was
could be said negative about it, but
so she was, I think, making the distinction between peaceful protest and like nonviolent resistance, which
yeah,
people often think that nonviolent resistance needs to be peaceful. She was making the point that
right,
like it's explicitly not supposed to be
right.
peaceful. It just isn't supposed to be violent. And then you can make the analysis about you know violent resistance on its own. That's been a thing for me too, is to realize that it's there. So one of the things that the system always tries to do is to um, immobilize us by um, constantly presenting strategies as mutually exclusive alternatives. Whereas, like, the same way their coercion and oppression takes many forms and angles and, comes from a cumulative effect of all of those different forces and angles, resistance is the same thing. So, like for me, um, I can understand. I can share most people's preference for nonviolent resistance, and then understand that it still needs to be disruptive. It should be
Yeah.
disruptive, right? And
Yep.
then when there's violent resistance, then we address that, right? So like sometimes people are not with it, but you have cases like Luigi Mangione. Like his celebrity is an example of the power of violent resistance in a time when people have questions about the effectiveness of nonviolent resistance.
Oh,
Um,
interesting point.
yeah, it's again, I'm never gonna be one to none of us want to live in a society where people celebrate murder, but we want to be honest about why people are naming their pets after this man. um it's because, like Tad was talking about, when it happened, we had the conversation about the structural violence of the insurance industry.
Yeah.
And we found out about like their artificial intelligence algorithms that were, reducing the number of claims accepted. And then we have the reality where there was a huge spike in the number of claims that were accepted. So but again, like that's why those type of distinctions are important, so that it doesn't all get collapsed into the same thing. We can say, oh,
Yeah.
there's violent resistance over here. People have, their feelings about that. Then there's this other umbrella. There's this other, there's nonviolent resistance, and then there's direct and indirect, and all of these things. But here's another aspect of what we were talking about earlier. So we talked about how during the race riots that produced the flight of white for a lot of our major cities, um, were times when there was state violence against Black and brown people.
Hmm.
Part of what the game in America was, and has been, even if you think back to Black Lives Matter, was when Black people get upset and they uh, you know you know break store windows and damage property and maybe, vandalize a retail location or whatever. That was the type of behavior that caused people to leave.
Mm-hmm.
That was too violent for them, right? Now, fast forward to 2020, you had the same rhetoric around Black Lives Matter. But then fast forward to 2026, and Alex Preddy and Renee Good get shot. All of a sudden, here comes literally suburban white America. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, but y'all know that nonviolent resistance is not supposed to be peaceful. And y'all know that property destruction is not violence, right? And so this why another thing happened in this moment is Black and brown people are taking a step back, because now we're taking a step back looking at y'all like, oh, so you did understand that destroying property is nonviolent resistance and that it's necessary when the state is murdering you without consequences. Well, look at here.
Yeah.
Like, so that's why it's wild. It's like, oh, you see it now. Okay. All right.
Well,
That's
but
good.
then I mean, we could go for another 3 hours, right? But like
I'm
at
sure
that
we
point, you
could.
have to recognize that like then the media has their complicity because
Absolutely.
there's, Black and brown people being killed by ICE all the time, or many of them, and they don't put their names out there. They don't publicize it. They don't make a big deal about it because they don't think anyone's going to click on it or whatever. I don't know what the like weird
Yeah, yeah,
incestuous
yeah,
relationship between the media and the algorithm is at this point. But
yeah,
like if people aren't hearing about it and then they're only being told intentionally about the ones that look like them, then
yeah,
that's the reaction you
yeah,
get too, so it's
yeah,
like it furthers the issue with it furthers the issue because then all of a sudden you don't give anyone the opportunity to rise to the challenge
yes,
either.
yeah, yeah. No, it's just self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like literally saying like, and then people say this like, y'all don't care. Listen, we're not gonna pay attention to white women that go missing because y'all never pay attention when Black girls go missing. And then it's like, well, I never know of any Black girls going missing, right? So it's like, oh, we don't put it on the news when Black girls goes missing because nobody cares, and then nobody cares because they don't see it on the news. So yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely, it's terrible. It's
Yeah.
terrible. All right,
Okay,
look,
friend, I gotta go.
we tortured the people enough tonight. Yeah. No, this is fun. This is
Well,
fun.
it's hot in my studio. All right, it was fun. It was so nice to get to chat. Such important things that need
Yeah,
air. So
yeah, definitely.
yeah.
All right, gang. We'll see you next time.